does that even mean?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening. I was doing my Steven Crowder impression. We're going to call this Thorne Club. See, that's why I put ice cubes in my tea. I know, sacrilege, I know.
I was trying to figure out what the fuck you meant by let's do this the Crowder way. I am a sail without wind.
Well, I have plenty of wind. I had a lot of cabbage today. So,
I thought you were going to say people claim that you're full of hot air.
I mean, it's the same thing, isn't it?
It is all but a matter of perspective.
It is all but, yeah, that's right. So I'm kind of in a whingy kind of mood today. I'm kind of in it. No, I'm not in a whingy mood. I'm more in a, I feel like complaining and bitching and moaning and having a good time with all my people here on the Thursday night Thor stream. Thursday night, Thornsday night.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of you lovely people in the chat right now, I see Gogo, Alex Estrada, Jeff524. By the way, hi, Alex. I think you are a new one. Dark
yeah, I
Lord
think no relation to the Estrada family? No, I'm just kidding.
Faustian, 7LVX7777. Wyatt Coverdale, Who Loves Orange Soda, Star Ruby Corsi, The Hermit, Bladen Cloak, Scanning,
Eddie
Sin.
Romanov.
Oh, Eddie just popped in. Yes. Yeah, and Buddha Nature. That's who I'm seeing on this chat bar. So
sweet. Happy
to have all of you here. And yeah, what are we going to talk about?
Oof, man, just all kinds of stuff. We'll talk about a bunch of stuff tonight. There's a lot on my mind, and my mind's on a lot of things. Nothing bad. I hope you guys all enjoyed my video that I put out. I guess it was yesterday, or the day before. I don't know. I'm losing track of time. It's, it's the end of days. We don't really keep track of time when you're, looking for gasoline, and all that good stuff. But I put out a video yesterday about keeping your distance from social media and all of the different pitfalls and perils therein, about how it's probably a good idea to not utilize the internet first thing in the morning. Today was the first day I really did follow my own advice, and I kept my cell phone completely away from where I sleep. And I just woke up, took a shit, didn't look at my phone. It was like a good 45 minutes before I even fucked around with the internet, and I just feel moderately better.
I mean, it is good because especially first thing in the morning, dude, like that first hour really tempers. That's
like addiction central.
Yeah, but it tempers the rest of your day. And if you spend that very first thing just getting to see the fucking bullshit that your aunt posted on Facebook, or just
or
the drama or whatever, it's just that sticks with you all day. It's like in one way. So it's just better just to not.
For real, it's bad enough that there's so much, like, and they really do find ways to insert it into everything. So even answering your fucking telephone, you have to go through your lock screen or whatever, and half the time there's some notification from something that you've turned off 1,000 times already, telling you about shit that's going on in the world that you don't want to look at right now. I will look at it later, I promise. I am not uninformed. I just don't want to be bombarded right now while I'm sipping my damn tea and trying to be, comfortable. Fucking bastards. You're gonna kill me, at least let me have my tea first. I guess I am a lot more English than I realize.
Maybe, yeah. You're not much of a coffee person, so.
No, I fucking hate coffee. I'll drink it. Like, my wife will take me down for a walk to Dunkin' Donuts, and she'll either get me a tea or a coffee, and I have to bring my my monk fruit juice. I can deal, but I find that coffee's like too acidic and sour, like in just the wrong way. And I looked it up, and apparently, there is something genetic about liking coffee and dark chocolate. Now, I don't mind dark chocolate. I kind of like dark chocolate, especially if you put a little sugar or something in it. But yeah, so, you know, there is all that.
True. I don't know. I'm still of the opinion that you need to go full fucking Washington and start cold brewing.
I'm going to try it. I just got to, you know what I need to do, dude? I need to buy that hunter's cabin in the woods, and you and me and April and all the other people, all our friends, Camilla, everybody, we all just got to dwell together in the same domicile with many rooms between us so we can have private time. And I'll just wake up one morning and there'll be this cold brewed coffee there with a big old orange dildo next to it from my buddy Fleshy. And that'll be how I start my day, and it'll be fucking awesome. So
It won't be orange unless it's Halloween.
Good point. So yeah, go for it.
Then it's candy cane colored. Candy corn colored.
Oh, I was gonna say candy cane colored makes sense right now.
Not anymore.
Fuck you. Yes.
No, fuck Christmas. Mariah Carey has been locked back in her cage.
No, it's Merry What the Fuck Ever. That's what I'm calling it. It's not. It's whatever.
Fuck,
it's you saw the meme. If you didn't see the meme, go back and see it because it's my favorite meme ever.
I give it. I could accept that. I like that a lot more.
Yeah, Merry Whatever Miss, and it lasts from now until fuck it all. That's when it goes from until.
Fuck yes.
So, all right. So we're definitely going to talk about some spiritual stuff tonight. I may do a rare treat and talk about demons and gods and stuff tonight, since that's the fan favorite. Of course, with the usual non-dual inflection. But, you know, I put a bitch post on the Discord server tonight, a bitch and moan post. And it's tongue-in-cheek. Like, I sound really bitter, but I'm really just kind of laughing about it. And the point is, you know, while I'm scrolling through social media in particular, I'll be bouncing around through different social groups, and people will be asking questions, and you'll see people who, like, they still haven't even like done square one, and they're asking how to bind demons to ashtrays, and why, you know, are demons, you know, confounded by angels, and all kinds of crazy shit. And it's just like, people need to stop with the superstitious stuff. I know that's maybe a little bit judgmental of me, but it's a thing that kind of, you know, if you're a serious practitioner and you're asking questions about these things, questions are good, right? I'm not criticizing the question. It's the mentality that comes before the question, that these people are asking for advice on how to do things when the thing that they're asking is warped by a superstitious perspective that I know to be a blind or a bind that was put there by organized religion, orthodox religion, and various superstitious cult mentalities to hide the truth from everybody.
Also, before we get too far, Patchwork hit us with a super chat, says bing bong.
Bing bong, bing bong. I fucking love that guy, if that's who I think you're making fun of. I love that guy. Did you ever see, I can't think of the name of the movie now. Oh my goodness. It's Inside Out. My beautiful wife just reminded me. It's called Inside Out. And Bing Bong, it's like there's this imaginary friend of the main, well, sort of main character, and he just goes Bing Bong, Bing Bong. Anyway, I'm not sure if that's who Patchwork was making reference to.
I have no idea. Maybe he is. Maybe he's just like, man, I thought it was just a funny sound, and I wanted to share it.
Point.
I've been saying Bing Bong to people all day.
I'll be saying it for like
appreciate
a week now.
you, dude. Happy you're here.
Thank you, Patchy brother. Good to see you. I know you come and go, and I know you got a life, and I know you got, you know, everything in between. I'm hoping you're doing well, and we're glad to see you. So thank you. Yeah. So anyway,
people get a little bit, I don't know, people get real hung up in the superstition of it because, I mean, it's fun.
True. No, that's fair. Yeah. It's also fair to say, like, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And superstition is a fun flavoring additive, we'll say. I obviously engage in some superstitious stuff in my spiritual work. That is not the problem. The problem is we take things so literally, so desperately literally, in the larger occult community. And On the one hand, I'm grateful because that sort of separates the wheat from the chaff for a while. Those people have a lot of developing to do. But on the other hand, I'm really sad because I feel like there's a whole world of higher understanding that people overlook because they live in this superstitious world, based on whatever orthodox religion, perhaps, you know, even atheism and skepticism, I consider an orthodox religion at this point, that pollutes them, and they're not able to look behind the curtain, if you will. It's one of those things where it's taken me a few years of actively looking, but I realized that I began with the superstition like everybody else. So in a way, I'm hating on myself, by the way. So I'm not as negative as I'm making it sound. But
this is us kind of looking through old photos of ourselves, just going, oh man, I was so cringe.
And making fun of the people who are cringy now a little bit, you know, like I can say it because that was me a couple of years ago. Kind of like I can make fun of fat people because I lost 90 pounds. Hey, maybe it's not true, but I like to live there. So when I was younger, the reality is this, okay? The higher self utilizes the spirit world. And hold on. I got to make sure. Are you okay, honey? It's not the Kofifi, guys. It's not. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it is the Kofifi.
Please don't die. We like you.
Is the incense bothering you, dear? No. Okay. Okay, gotcha. Porn bot alert. Thank you, Wyatt. And thank you for the mod for destroying that, Miss Camilla. Yeah. So, where was I going with this? The higher self and the spirit world, which are really kind of the same thing. The spirit world is the metaphor of all of the different things that we experience. It's the metaphor for, it's the speakable that describes the unspeakable. That's the spirit world. So the different gods and demons and angels and everything else, they're metaphorical masks that the unspeakable has so that it can relate to us and communicate with us. And it's really just us talking to ourselves, the shadow puppet, the hand puppet game that we talk about. So when I'm talking to a spirit, I'm this hand puppet and the other one is this one. And I feel like we're separate, but we're not. And the same thing's happening even now when I'm talking to Fleshy. It's just, with Fleshy, it's actually even more, we'll say separate. It's even more, there's even more of a sensation of separation. When you're talking to a spirit, I got to tell you guys, here's a little dirty secret that some of the people who are charlatans won't want to hear. Well, they don't mind hearing. They're going to actually say, Thorne's an asshole. He's making this up because he doesn't believe, or something like that, because they don't understand. When you are channeling a spirit, it is nothing like dictation. And I don't mean the fleshy kind of dictation. I'm talking about like when you have the secretary taking the notation word for word. God damn, is everything gonna hoot and holler tonight? Is everything is you're not sitting there listening to a spirit talking in your ear going blah 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 and you're writing it all down or reciting it for people. That is the superstitious pop culture interpretation. That is not what's happening. The information that you're blobbing out is entirely in your words, built out of figments of your own inspired imagination. The inspiration is the source. The inspiration is from the spirit world. It is from the higher self. So when somebody says, I channeled XYZ spirit, they may not know this, because I certainly didn't realize it at the time, unless I was being brutally honest. When I was a young child, 14 or so, Wyatt's age, doing my first channelings, acting like a medium, I would experience supernatural things. I would not necessarily know what was going on. I would wake up later and have very little memory as far as I knew. I mean, I knew something happened, but I couldn't quite put together what it was until later. Like, it would come back to me slowly. Like, my short-term memory was farted on. Like, it's still there, but it doesn't work well. But for the most part, I got the very distinct impression that I was going through and sincerely reporting what my imagination was telling me, but I believed my imagination. I don't know if that's making sense. There was a part of me that said, am I just making this up? But then, if so, how come I'm right? Or where did that correct information come from? Or how did I know this thing that I shouldn't be able to know? So the spirit world, even in case of heavy possession, the superstition is that you're channeling or possessed, as in you step out of your body and a spirit steps in, or they co-pilot or something like that. That's the mythology. That's the superstition. The reality is you set aside your egoistic attachment and allow yourself to go with the inspiration without hesitation. So if you're a musician, you instantly know what I'm talking about because you know what it's like to jam. You know what it's like to just flow with a beat, with a melody, and it's just all fitting, and you just feel like you don't know where it's coming from. It's just flowing through you, and it's amazing. That state, there's a brainwave associated with that state, of course. That's the eureka state. I believe it's the gamma state. I have to look it up again. It's also found in theta, like when they're in a good sync, like you're dreaming and you're also experiencing and your brain's buzzing and it's all just flowing. That is a channeling. That is the channel. So there's no, like when I'm channeling something for you guys, like when I did that video a couple months ago with Lucifer, I wasn't hearing a voice in my ear going, say this next. It wasn't like the meme where you had, Kermit the Frog and Kermit the Frog, like, say this, no, it wasn't like that. It was literally, I let go of D.H. Thorne as a personality, allowed myself to whatever extent was possible at that time, because it's not always the same. I allowed myself to become the mask of Lucifer, to put the mask of Lucifer on, and then improvisationally act that character. Now, does that mean that there is no such thing as a spirit? Or no, of course there is. It's just it's nothing like what pop culture and superstition wants you to think it is.
How would you
yeah.
How would you compare it to this? I've described it to some people as being not one for one, but like method acting in terms of you're almost building up a separate idea. And when you step into that character, so to speak, you're not thinking as you're thinking from a completely different mindset. The main difference, I would say, is that for serious method actors, they really, really study and get into it. And with this, I would almost say could be more detrimental by studying everything about this, rather just connecting with the most fundamental elements and letting those speak and build a character within you.
Well, the first time you should have as little as possible, just so you can validate. I'm the opposite end of and you're agreeing with me, I guess. A lot of people will tell you, go learn everything you can about a spirit before you start with them. No, I'm saying learn the fundamentals, which is usually a paragraph or two. Page tops, okay, of information. Engage with that spirit, validate that you connected with that spirit, then go open the giant dictionary, then go open the encyclopedia, then go open all the research.
Don't stalk these people. Just learn a little bit about them. Then once you meet them, then learn all about them.
Right. Think about dating, right?
Don't show up knowing where they live and their social security number and all that bullshit. Right. Nobody wants to hang around that guy. Because
a lot of that information's wrong. A lot of that information's blind. A lot of that information's superstitious. And that's frustrating as fuck to me. I'll encounter people who will be like, well, I know I didn't really speak to Lucifer because, he wasn't like sitting on a throne of skulls or whatever nonsense, whatever they think Satan, Lucifer, whatever is supposed to be like. And it's like, all right. And this stuff's infuriating, and it leaves a lot of people in the dust. One of the greatest tricks that have been done to humanity is we've been convinced that the mythology is the truth and not a finger pointing at the truth. And we are conditioned to accept the truth, often as literal or as infallible, right? As something that can't be wrong. I see it all the time, especially in pagan traditions, which I think is funny because pagan meant, you know, beyond the pale. It meant, you know, in the wilderness. It meant the wild people out in the wilderness. But the pagan traditions, the pagan pantheons and stuff, we see this all the time. You'll have groups of people who will take them as maybe just little figments of our own conscious personality, right? People will be like, oh, Ares is not really a god of Mars or something. Ares is just my fight or flight instinct and my desire to conquer, and it's very, you know, whatever. And we all have that. True. That's true. Then you have people who will go, well, no, Ares isn't just limited to you. It's in the collective conscious. Ah, now they're getting somewhere. Yes. Also true. Then you have people who go all the way crazy and say, no, Ares is actually a god living on Mount Olympus that is one of the sons of Zeus. And how dare you insult him by not believing in him and worshiping him with every fiber of your being, blah, 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 may he smite you dead. Now, to be clear and fair, there's far less pagans like that than there are Christians like that. To be fair.
No.
Right? So I want to be clear. I'm not saying that this is some kind of a dig on everybody. I'm not making fun of pagans.
At least when the pagans do it, you can kind of forgive them a little bit because they're the type that will, you know, still sit around and share some mead with you around the fire, or, you know, maybe combust a couple things, whereas the Christians, not always, but just tend to be a lot less fun.
You know, it depends, man. It really depends, again, because we all have our biases based on experiences, and it's a stereotype. And stereotypes, unfortunately, often have some basis, not in truth, but in experience, if not truth. And I know that sounds horrible. I know that's going to be like, oh, Thorne's a racist. No, relax. We wouldn't be saying these things about Christians. You wouldn't be saying that about Christians if you didn't believe in the stereotype, right? It's not fun to realize. It's not a fun mirror to hold up on yourself. But when you recognize it, you can realize like, hey, yeah, it's true. A lot of Christians are that way. And you know what? That actually means that there's a lot that aren't. There's a lot of, we'll say, Gnostic Christians who would make you eat your lunch for that. They would be like, no, we're nothing like that. That's not what Christianity is. Christianity is not a monolith, you motherfucker. You're talking about Orthodox Christianity. You're talking about the closed-minded Protestants, in fact, more than anything. And they would be right.
We are, yeah.
Yeah. But there are Protestants that aren't like that at all. You have Universalists who are very likely to sit down with a giant fucking doob with you and fucking talk about the infinite God, whatever that is to you, and not judge you. They'll just see Christ as another manifestation, Buddha as another. And are they wrong? So what I'm getting at is, it's a frustration I have, a playful frustration, to be fair, with people who take the mythology too seriously in both directions. Whether it's the Christian who thinks all, you know, spirits are evil that aren't of God, or the Satanist that thinks that everybody is supposed to worship Satan or something, or there's so many people with all these different superstitions that they believe in. And it's like, instead of, you know, it's kind of like that album by Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion. Use the illusion. Don't let the illusion use you.
Well, I think that's maybe one of the things that we're chiseling away with this irritation with people who live within the superstition and everything. It's not that. So I fucking practice chaos magic and shit. Like, I am all for, you know, picking up and dropping superstitions as they entertain you. it's one thing to be superstitious, especially if it's only affecting you and you're not putting it on other people. It's one thing to have those superstitions if you have a higher concept of everything, higher concept of everything, and you're choosing to indulge in those superstitions. It's different and unfortunate to me when I see somebody who those superstitions are all they know. And they just think that is the way that is how everything mechanically functions. And in my opinion, it is very much so not.
Yeah, people have to take the mechanics out.
Yes. So real quick, thank you, Scarlett Bales, for the super chat. She says, thanks for continuing to speak your mind. You both do an amazing job.
Thank you, Scarlett. Good to see you, by the way. Thank you so much. You're very generous. I appreciate that. Wyatt, I got a bone to pick with you. QAnon shaman is not a Nazi. Get your head pulled out of the mainstream media's narrative. It's bullshit. I'm not saying he's a great guy. I don't know if he's nuts or not, but he's not a Nazi.
He's not a Nazi. He's just anti-Semitic. I'm kidding.
No, he's not even anti-Semitic.
I don't know anything about him other than he's a very silly guy. He's a very silly person.
Maybe you just don't understand. See, this is the thing. This is how they're getting everybody, is with these little, they'll tell. See, people believe the first thing they hear, especially when it comes from a source that they have no reason to doubt. If you got a friend that you trust and they heard from somewhere that this is something, most people believe it. This is a superstition. Wyatt and you, to a lesser extent, both just displayed a tendency towards, now we all do it, mind you. I'm not saying, oh, I'm never, no. I'm saying, hold up the mirror and ask yourself, what truth do you believe? How many truths do you believe that you're sure of, that aren't superstitions, that aren't built on ignorance and he said, she said, and just word of mouth? Have you examined evidence? Most of the time, no, we're not built to do that. We can't live our lives where every time we hear something, we double check.
Yeah, it is impossible. Everything is built upon some type of axioms. If you had to just confirm absolutely everything and get to the unequivocal truth of every single matter, every microscopic nuance of everything, you would just die. You have no time. There has to be some axioms in there, and it is important to recognize them. Yes. Also, thank you, Jay Sauber, for the super chat. Appreciate you, dude.
There's so much that we are taught to think. And thank you, Jay Sauber. I'm watching the conversation about people. Again, they don't recognize, they don't see. And I'm sorry for that. I'm not saying the guy's a good guy. I'm saying that I'm watching the judgmental attitude that I wonder if the first place you heard it from was a different source, what would you think? In fact, I know you'd think differently. I know you would. Because it's how we function as human beings. I watch you guys judging and I go, wow, people are parroting what they want you to say. And I'm sure I parrot what some people would want me to say. I wonder where our genuine opinions lie. When do we actually get to say that we have a true opinion? Saying that he stormed the Capitol, along with a bunch of grandmas who just walked along the velvet rope after the door was open for them politely.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you could say like they were scared. That's why they opened the door. A door that is meant to take bomb blasts. They were scared. Whatever. Fleshy's like, I'm out.
How the fuck did I wander into this conversation? What the fuck? I just saw a silly shaman guy like fucking screaming in the pictures, and I said he's silly.
Silly, true. No, silly is true. Silly is true. I will agree with that. I think that what happens is, people just in general are being worked into a lather, and we're being taught to see. Eddie calling it insurrectionists. I can't tolerate that, dude. I don't call them insurrectionists any more than I call the people who were throwing bricks through windows over the summer insurrectionists. That's a narrative language. That's a parroting language. And it's like, I wish you could see that. I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying he did the right thing. I'm saying that that's coded language that you don't realize that you're reciting. And that's NLP stuff. And it's really sad because there's going to come a time when you're going to call me an insurrectionist if you keep down this path. I'm telling you this as a friend. You're going to call me an insurrectionist someday. Because at the rate we're going, they're calling people who say, let's go Brandon insurrectionists now. This is linguistic weaponry. It's designed to fuck with your head. So I can't stand by it. I don't like it. I don't like that language. Just like I don't like when people were calling BLM terrorists. They weren't terrorists either. We're all useful idiots in this situation, all of us. If you're worked up into a lather enough to go and do anything, you're a useful idiot. So this is all part of the superstition. This is no different than when the Christians say all demons are bad, and when and Satanists say all Christian stuff is evil, and blah, 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 blah. It's tribal nonsense, and it's superstitious. And it's really sad to me that we get caught up in it. You know what an insurrectionist is? Someone who runs into the Capitol with a gun, shooting the place up, saying, I'm taking over with my people. I'm subverting the government this way. I'm going to hold hostage these people. That's not people just going in and being stupid. They're stupid people. Maybe. That I can stay. Yeah, maybe that was pretty damn fucking stupid. Hey, if that's your sacred cow, Eddie, that people attacking a federal building is somehow crossing a line, like I said, you know, that line is pretty interesting to me. That's kind of a tribal line. My line is having my rights infringed on. That's my line. I don't care what they do to the federal building by comparison. Just saying, you know. That would have gone for anybody, even the BLM people. Did I get all pissed off when churches burned down in front of the Capitol? No. I said it was wrong. So people need to get their chill back, and it's not easy to do. I'm probably going to fail at it too. So even though I'm saying some judgmental things, I'm going to fail too. I promise you, I'm going to fail too. I'm not judging you. I'm just talking real. Scarlett says, let's talk more magical. Yay, yay, yay. You guys don't realize this is magic. God, I wish I could get you guys to see that. I wish I could get you guys to see why. You guys got to understand something. The powers that be understand that each one of you is God, and what you believe and do shapes the reality they live in, but they don't want you to know you're fucking God. So therefore, they want you to think what they want you to think so that what you believe becomes their reality too. And while you swallow all of this stuff up and say, yes, govern me harder, daddy, take away my rights and stab me with fucking vaccines and protect me from everything, they go, yes, I will. And every inch of this that they take from you, they never give back. And if you can't see why, I'm just here shouting in the wilderness. You don't have to listen. There's a reason why I have certain stances. People think that I'm political. I'm not. Politics is part of a grandiose form of magic that is so much bigger. And when we cringe away from it, go, I'm afraid to talk about it because that's another part of the game. That's another way they got you. Now, I understand getting like, I'm triggered over it. Like that I get. Like that's, if you go, oh, this triggers me, I don't want to, because I hear it too much and I just need to relax. And okay, no, that's cool. That's like, you can't hear bad news all the time. Like we got to play video games and talk magic and other shit. But this shit is not what you think it is. This isn't just people being stupid. And it's always been this way. It's always been this way.
Thank you, Mobius, for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you, Mobius. Well, no, I agree it's not time for a revolution, button, Eddie. But then again, what do you mean by revolution? Do you mean a violent revolution? I agree. Do you mean a peaceful revolution? No, we are way past needing to pull that lever. But that's just me. We're gonna because Fleshy's about to be
Yeah,
like, man, I had something else to do.
I'm very honestly like 2 minutes away from just turning on Civilization 6 if I want politics.
All right. We will shift the topic. Give us a better question than the shaman with the blue face paint and, you know, the clown. I mean, he is a clown. That's for sure. Give me a better question or comment to talk about that will take us off of this subject then.
So forgive me, everybody in chat, if there's been more questions I haven't caught them. I do have one from GoGo. They asked, can you ask Thorne what he thinks is going to happen after we die? Does he believe in heaven, or something else?
Okay, yeah, I've talked about this before, and it's an interesting question with an interesting sort of response. Here's the thing. The part you have to first, it's sort of a loaded question. I don't mean you're loading it like you're being an unfair question. I mean, it's a loaded question in that the premise has a problem. We talk about death as a certainty. We talk about death as if we know what it is. We talk about death as if it's a thing that happens to us. We talk about death like it's an end. We talk about death in all these ways, and none of us have experienced it, or have we? Let's examine this a little bit more clearly. I don't know how old you are, GoGo. I'm 45 in a couple of months. A person who's 45 probably has very little memory of anything when he was like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. Just little flashes and blurs here and there, right? And the person that I was at that age has been dead for a very long time. That person died a long, long time ago. But yet I'm still here. Does that mean that D.H. Thorne, age 45, is the afterlife for D.H. Thorne, 15? You're going to say, well, no, Thorne, you didn't die. Your body's still here.
Ship of Theseus.
Ship of Theseus time. The body that you're talking to is not the same body that was talking when I was 15. Nothing in this body, except for maybe the enamel in my teeth and the fillings in my head, are the same substance that was in here when I was 15. Every 15 years or so, conservatively speaking, with some margin for error, every single atom and molecule of your body is exchanged with the environment within that time. With the exception of things like the enamel on your teeth. That's it. Does that mean you're your teeth? Are you your teeth, dude? No, you're not your teeth. I'm not my teeth. If I pull your teeth out, does that mean you're dead now? Because that's the part of you that lasts for a long time? No, of course not.
Tyler Durden, you are not your fucking khakis.
Right. So you're not your teeth. You're not your skin. You're not your hair. You're not your eyes. You're not even your brain. Because your brain, too, is exchanged. All the atoms and molecules in your brain, your entire body, it comes in and comes out. It's all being repaired and restored all the time because of damage and wear and tear and time. Even the nerves, the things that they say don't regenerate, well, they don't regenerate the cells. Like, you don't get new cells, but those cells are constantly being repaired with new atoms and molecules are constantly being refreshed. So what is dying? Answer me. Teach me what death is. Before we talk about the afterlife, tell me what death is first. Prove to me what death is. Thorne, I'll shoot you in the head, and then you'll know. You'll see me go down. What I experience, you don't know what I'm going to experience. You'll see me go down. But what are you seeing going down? The body. You're seeing the body go down. The thing that you think is me, which I just proved to you really isn't, because it's not me. It's never been me. So what is me? If we keep removing these layers of delusion that we think is the self, we can do this with with literally everything that we think of as the self. And when you do that, what are you left with? What are you left with when you remove the body? When you remove What else is there? Fleshy, give me an idea of something else is there besides my body. What else do people confuse themselves with?
Your thoughts, your identity.
Right, good, excellent. Your thoughts and your identity. What is that? What is it? What are your thoughts and your identity? Let's start with the identity first, because your identity is something you think about, isn't it?
Your identity really is just looking out into the world and identifying all of that is not me, but all those things that aren't me, I am what is not them.
Yeah, very good.
I'm everything within this little bubble right here.
So to say I am this is a denial of everything else. If I say I'm this, that means, let me ask you something, guys. How big is the universe? When you make a declaration of what you are, you're saying a whole lot more about what you're not. It's actually a denial. You're denying what it is when you describe it, when you say it's this. You're actually saying, I'm not that. When I say I'm D.H. Thorne, I'm saying I'm not Flesh Priest. It would be better if someone said, who are you, Thorne? If I said, I'm not you. Even that wouldn't be right, though, because I am. You're me, I'm you, we're all the same, but that's a different conversation. So the story that you think you are, this conversation starter that you call me, it's really all it is.
I'm sorry, I love that way of looking at it. This conversation starter that you call you.
Right? Think about it.
Oh, fuck.
So this idea of who you are, when did it start? Where was the beginning? When was it born? It certainly wasn't born. It was talked about. It was agreed upon. So your identity is a story that began not even with you. You were a receiver of the story when it first started. You didn't have anything to do with it. Your mom and dad gave you a name, a sex, an identity, a vagina to fall out of, whatever the fuck it was. This is how you started. Well, wait a minute. You didn't start there, though. That's where your identity started. That's where your body started. You didn't start there. If anything, you kind of picked up somewhere along the line. None of you can remember anything prior to a certain age. I don't know what the studies were. I'm sure someone can claim to remember being born, but I'm pretty sure science has debunked all of those. I think they say around the age of 2 or 3 is the youngest people can possibly remember. The reason you can't remember is because you have no egoistic identity yet at that point. You haven't developed the ability to associate yourself with yourself. When you're that young, you are literally just here and the world and you. There's no distinction. There's no distinction between you and the world when you're an infant. You don't know the difference. As far as you know, that person falling down the stairs is part of you, and you're part of that. It's just it's just a process. And you're just watching it all in wonder, going, whoo, that's some shit.
So you're telling me that infants basically get free ayahuasca?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Infants are the newborn eyes of the universe before they've been polluted with identities and ideas about themselves. Before they have been polluted with the biases of the people trying to control you.
Return to diapers. That's what we need to. We need to return to that innocence and crap ourselves.
I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but isn't that pretty much what all the mystics tell us? Isn't that what ayahuasca does to us? Does it not make us fill our pants with, shouldn't we probably wear Depends and have a bucket handy like a little child would have, probably? Do we not see ourselves as not people if we get a really good trip? Mm-hmm. I haven't done it, but that's what they all tell me. It's the same thing as when I go into a really deep meditation and go transcendental as fuck. And I go, there's no Thorne here. I'm still experiencing everything, but I don't have any contemplation of Thorne. I don't even say there's no Thorne. I'm just here. I'm just in the moment. It's not that different. Maybe a little bit more trippy. Maybe you see Smurfs. I don't know. I haven't done that part yet.
Working at it.
Working on it. Give it a few months. So, again, getting back to the point. What is being born, what is dying. So there's an old saying that says this, only that which has been born can die. Were you born? I'm going to ask my beautiful, delicious wife, Honeydew, if she could cover the bird, because he's getting very chatty now.
I thought you were about to ask the bird.
Oh, little bird. Oh, we love that bird. It's
let me sing you the song of my people while the camera rolls.
It's just distracting. He's really sweet. It is late for him. He's probably singing because he wants to go to bed. My snake is hungry too. I got to feed him soon. I got something defrosting for him. Let's see if my wife picks up on it soon. It's a good 30. So yeah, there we go. I've heard activity. Thank you, sweetie.
Rawl, on this topic, Rawl poses the question. I don't even think it's a question so much as pointing out, how can a concept such as the ego die?
How is it even born? So how does the ego die? It's a very good question. Well, the ego is not a thing. That is number one. The ego is not a thing. So here's the thing. Here's the problem with death. You still think it's a thing that happens to a thing. You think it's some kind of a noun or a verb, perhaps, or an adjective, maybe. You think it's a thing that happens to something. No. It's just another story about your ego. That's all. So what is the ego? People think of the ego as a person. They think of it as a person in the noun sense. We reify the ego as a thing, when the ego is really a behavior. The ego is a habit. The ego is a mistake, not in the bad way. It's a mistake when we believe that it exists as a thing. The ego is a pattern of behavior. It's kind of like picking your nose. It can be a bad habit, but there's a time and a place.
Sometimes you just got to get the sawdust out.
Sometimes you just got to get in there and just, I don't know, I always use this finger, but sometimes you got to use the little one and get a little further up. I like having a little bit of a nail on my picker finger. We'll just leave it at that. Just a little bit so I can really scoop it out.
I can't disagree with anything you're saying, but I can't believe you're saying it.
Hey, irreverent as fuck. That's how you know I'm sincere. So, the ego is a habit, and there's nothing wrong with it. As usual, there's a lot of these extremes. There's these superstitious takes on all of this. People say, oh, you got to get rid of your ego. It's so horrible to have an ego. You can't go to heaven with an ego. You can't transcend with an ego. Reaching nirvana means to be egoless. Like, holy shit. Okay. Then you get the other side. I must glorify and enshrine my ego because I must be a separatist. I must be a revolutionary against the demiurge, and the only way to do that is to make myself the source. And oh, fuck, okay. All right. Whole lot of ego in both of those statements, and they don't even know it. They don't even see it. They're trapped so hard in that habit of ego that they don't even know that both of those extremes do nothing but compound the ego upon itself, like a pair of mirrors staring at each other and just reflecting itself back into itself infinite.
Lolan Asign says, hi all, the ego is like an 8-track recording stuck in play.
It's all right. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Ooh. So when we're talking about ego death, Straw is bringing it up. When we're talking about ego death, what we're talking about, dissolution's a good word. People have to understand what it means. It means to sort of disassociate, to sort of, dissolve your attachment to, spoiler alert, if you have ego dissolution, it's not like amnesia where you forget yourself. It's that you realize you're not that. Not just like intellectually, it is experientially separate. It's when you can almost like third person witness yourself existing and go, that ain't me after all, is it? And then you transcend it and you go, okay, ignore this little motherfucker. Let's go see the other stuff. Wait a minute. All this is me? Ah, that's more ego, but it's more accurate ego, isn't it? So here's the fun part. The fully enlightened ego is the ego that recognizes that Brahman and Atman are one. It's the ego that recognizes that it is not just D.H. Thorne, and it is not just the planet Earth and everything on it. It is not just the solar system or the galaxy or even the universe or even all universes. The true ego recognizes that all of that is an illusion, and it is that which inspires us to see the illusion. And then the ego shuts up because you can't talk about that. There's no words to describe it. And so you have the experience of the ego going away because I got nothing. That's right, you got nothing because you're just a story. You can't tell a story about all stories. It would soon turn into just a clusterfuck of trying to talk, and it wouldn't, like I'm doing, it wouldn't make any sense. Like I've said, try to write a book. Try to write a single sentence in which every word in that sentence is fully described with references and citations. Eventually, you will explode into a book bigger than the universe because you're going to have to explain every word you say.
This is the kind of shit that it's hard to talk about, not only because there's no words for it, but because also the more you understand about it, the less you associate with normal people and the less they want to hear about it. Just like, I don't know, getting into cryptocurrency or something. Everybody's just like, oh, that's nice. I'm going to keep having my coffee.
Or being vegan, or vegetarian, or being libertarian, or
oh, that's so
or commie,
nice.
or any of these things. We're all totally fucking unbearable motherfuckers in our own element, aren't we? All of it. That's the funny part. Everyone goes, oh, everyone must love when I talk about what I believe in. No, we don't. We think you're an asshole. At least be entertaining like I am.
That's where you got to find people like this community, or like, you know, Eddie's here. Eddie and I, we know people don't like hearing about fucking audio mixing or cryptography or any of this bullshit. Yeah, but when we find somebody who does, it's like everybody's going to hate us, but we're about to rant right now. And just, it's nice finding a community of people like this where it's like, oh, you are into that weird shit too. Okay, good.
Mobius is on the verge of revelation. He says, yup, I was once both of those polarities. Now I don't know what I am. Ah. What can you do when you can't do anything? That's still doing something.
I mean, you sit and then you just do. You just be, man.
You just be. Yeah, you just be. So let's go back to death, because death is, it's one of those questions that if a person can't answer something about it, they probably don't know what they're talking about. And when I say if they can't answer something about it and they don't know what they're talking about, I mean, if their answer is heaven or hell, they don't know what they're talking about because they're not answering the question of death. They're answering the question of how do I keep going without death? Because that's literally what it would be. What is death at all? I'm sorry, I'm shouting. I'm trying to be effective here. What is death at all? If you think there's a heaven or a hell afterwards, death is an illusion. It doesn't exist because you keep going as something into something. You change into another life or something. So death is not what you thought it was. It doesn't exist. Stop calling it death. Oh, well, Thorne, what if when I die, there's nothing? Will you know that there's nothing if there's nothing? What is death if there's nothing after? And how will you know?
Dice
can you experience nothing? No, you can't experience nothing. If you die and there's nothing, you won't even know about it. In fact, I have a theory. One of my early theories, it's not a theory I hold anymore necessarily, but it's an old theory I had when I was a kid. I used to ask myself, if death is the oblivion that atheistic skeptics say it is, where you just switch off and it's just gone, and it's as if you never existed because you'll have no experience anymore, you'll be gone, it'll be just a big zero. It's like turning the lights out. But it's not just darkness. You can't have an experience of darkness if you cease to exist. What does the cessation of existence feel like? Nothing. You can't experience it. Okay, good. Let's get that in. Let's hold that in our head. Will you know you're dead? Will you know? Of course not. Will you know when you're dying? Well, maybe. Will you care? No. So my point is this. If I shoot myself in the head, at what point do I die? If I can't know that I'm dead,
this ain't gonna be monetized.
Good point. If I shoot myself in the head right now, which I am not advocating, by the way, Susan Wojcicki, if I were to do this thing, when would I know that I'm dead? When would death happen to me? If death is nothing, when would I know it happened? I wouldn't. There'd be no way to know. Well, then how would I know if I was still alive and didn't die already? How would I know? How would I know at all? No, you wouldn't. Now, here's where it gets really fun. You think you're alive right now, right? You think you're alive. I'm alive right now. And Jack B. Nimble, I think you showed up a little bit late because we talked about the body earlier, brother. So rewind about a half hour or so. When I first started talking about this, I covered the body pretty well, but I'll cover that again a little bit because I think you make an interesting statement. What does it mean to be alive right now? Well, first of all, what is right now? What is even right now? Tell me what right now is.
Ooh, that's...
Well, right now, I see this. No.
It's right there.
Yeah,
right there.
Exactly. By the time you acknowledge it, it's over already. In fact, by the time your body processes all the information of now, it's actually a measurable amount of time in the past. Yeah, we all live with real-time lag.
Yeah, you are scientifically living in the past at all moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short delay, but it is there.
And it's only short from a matter of relativistic perspective. From in the sense of cosmic time, there is no difference. But then again, if you go back the other direction, it's an infinity of time when you think about Planck time. The number of Planck seconds in 1 second is a lot. So if you lived in the world where Planck time was your second, well, 1 second would be very, very, probably Eddie knows how many Planck seconds are in a second. It's a lot.
Eddie knows a lot of shit, that fucker.
I know. He fills his head with a lot of nonsensical stuff. Very important nonsensical stuff, but it's still nonsensical. Like things with atomic structures and numbers and shit.
Fucking nerd.
Fucking nerds. All nerds. All right. Why can't you just channel the wisdom like I do? All right. So the moment that you think of as right now, it's always now, isn't it? By the time you acknowledge it, it's already gone. But when you're acknowledging it, that's now too, isn't it? Fuck, what do? You're constantly chasing a tail when you try to think about now. You can't know now. But yet you live in now. How do we rectify this?
You just don't worry about it.
Well, that too. What if I were to tell you that if it's always now, that means that time passing is the illusion? The idea that time passes is the illusion. Time does not pass. Time is just another direction through which experience not flows, but directs its gaze. When you read a book, your eyes are locked into a two-dimensional plane. I look left, right, up, and down, right? I look boop, 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 boop. That's all I can do. When I'm living my daily life, I look left, right, up, and down, but I also have this feeling of three-dimensional space and time. My consciousness is like reading a book, and it's reading it in this 4 or more dimensional space. And there's probably more dimensions than that I just don't see. Time is just a direction in which consciousness gazes. It's not a thing that passes. But Thorne, I know when I drop a ball, I see the ball fall, so therefore time's passing. No, you see like when you watch a movie and the screen is flickering with a ball in different frames. That's what you're seeing. It's just on such a level that you can't measure it any other way. It's so, the analog is just so high def. You can't find the frames. And when you look for the frames, you see something interesting. Have you ever looked at video, we'll say typical 30 frame per second video, and you see something fly across the screen? Like if I take a video of me throwing a ball.
It just looks like a smudge.
It looks like a smudge. If you freeze the frame, you'll see like maybe 3 balls even. Well, what do you think happens if you freeze the simulation of reality using modern science? You go with quantum physics, which looks a little bit like that smudge, in fact. It's just spread out in a more quantum way, not just like a flickering screen. It's spread out through all the possibilities of where that ball could be in that moment. But they're focused mostly, the smudge is densest where it's probably going to be. So this idea of I'm alive now, but I'll be dead later is predicated on this illusion that time passes, that you exist, that your body is yours, and that you're limited to this body. And every single one of these things is an illusion. So let's give you a thought experiment. How many of you can focus your attention sufficiently within your hand to the exclusion of, I don't notice my foot for a minute? How many of you can be like, I have to clap it or something, but yeah, there I am. I got all my attention on my hand. I'm not noticing my foot right now. How many of you can do that? Pretty much everybody, right? Does that mean that you're in your hand? No, it just means that that's what you're paying attention to. So if you were to cut off that hand in the moment when you were focusing all your attention on it, I'm right here, bang. Does that mean you suddenly stop being this? No, of course not. You're still here.
That almost sounds like we're going to have to send people to the basketball passing video.
Yeah, that's a good video to do. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know we sent this. I know we sent this like last stream or the stream before, but I'm gonna do it again because if you're listening, you should watch it. It's just fun. You know what? I'm not even going to say anything else about it. Just go watch it sometime.
You have to watch it. You have to watch it.
And think about it watch it and then think about it in the context of what we've been talking about. For those of you watching in the future, I'll try to pin it.
999 brings up reincarnation. You know what my problem with reincarnation is? People think it's a linear process. Let me tell you something. 999, right now, you're the reincarnation of a moment ago. That's level 1 understanding. Wait till you take it all the way. Right now, the person you think you are is a reincarnation of the person you thought you were a moment ago. You constantly reincarnate, if we want to use those words. What is reincarnation at all? Oh, well, I die and then I'm reborn. You're reborn every moment because you're dying every moment as far as your egoistic identity is concerned. But your ego is a babbling story that never ends, so you don't feel like you're dying. But every moment is a new story, a new piece of the story. It's never the same river twice. If that's true, then every moment is a death of the moment before. So death is an illusion, but it is happening to you constantly. So you're reincarnating constantly. Every moment you're reincarnating again and again and again and again because you keep echoing the same story. That's a reincarnation of your old story. So what does it mean to be born again into somebody else? Well, maybe it's just a more drastic shift, but you're still thinking linearly. What if I were to tell you that I'm a reincarnation of you? What if I were to tell you that Fleshy is a reincarnation of me? What if I were to tell you my wife is a reincarnation of all of us? What if I were to tell you that none of us are here and the thing that is reincarnating isn't, when we say reincarnating, what we mean is consciousness settling and focusing its attention on one piece of itself at a time. Instead of thinking of it as I die and I'm reborn, that's still ego talking. You don't die and you don't get reborn. That's silly.
We're all just tabs on the universal Chrome. We just flip back and forth between them.
Man, I feel so bad about my fucking RAM right now. I got fucking 32 gigs of it too. Shit.
Don't worry, we got a whole universe.
How much RAM do I have? I have to go. How do I check my RAM again?
Press Control Shift Escape and then go to Performance in the Task Manager.
Yeah, that's what it was. Fucker. How much RAM do I have? I want this motherfucker to be a beast. What do I have? No, that's my okay.
RAM ain't even the important part. As long as you got at least 16 gigs, you're good. It's all about clock speed, buddy.
So I've got 23 available and I'm using 8. So I got a lot. Yeah, I got 32. Nice. 32 gigs? What the hell? I should be able to run like 5 games and, but yeah.
fucking pilot drones remotely and shit. Of course, remotely. How the fuck else? Never mind.
Well, you know, someone claims they burnt down my computer, which gave me the, you know, because of certain processes I had in motion, that meant I was able to buy $3,000 worth of computers.
Oh, so he was a dust wizard. Just, haha,
Yeah.
I created so much dust. I created thermal throttling.
Like, thank you, burn down another one for me. I could use a $6,000 computer next time. All right. So this reincarnation thing, this living thing, this thing that you think you are, you're not that. You've never been that. I've never been D.H. Thorne. I thought I was. And there's times that I think I am again. There's times like when you can tell when I'm feeling like D.H. Thorne or the other me that you'll never know the name of, when I think I'm that person, you can tell. It's pretty obvious. If you know how to see it, it's pretty obvious. When I'm not that person, you can tell then too.
It's like if you ever hung around somebody that has DID.
Yeah, a little bit.
We are just the universe's dissociated identities.
Yeah. I love that saying. I don't know if I heard it and said it or if I said it and you heard it, but man, I love that saying. Yes. We are the ultimate, you know, expression of the universe's DID.
God fucking damn it. Me too says on the topic of time. So when I get laid, does that mean I'm getting new goosh goosh every split second?
You can say gash. Yes, it does. It means even now you're getting whatever it is that you've got again every second. Yes. Think about it. Let's think about this. Let's go at this from the scientific perspective. Everybody, imagine that you have a magical X-ray device that you can see down to every subatomic particle in your body. And at the push of a button, you can take a snapshot and see how everything is. So you press the button and bang, there's an image of who you are. Wow, that's amazing. Well, there's a funny thing that happens. If you press the button again, it won't look anything like it was a moment ago. It'll be two completely different pictures because everything in your body will have shifted. All of the little atoms and molecules, all the little subatomic particles, everything will have whirled around and been in a different place from where it was before. Yet you're still sitting here looking like this. How the fuck? Well, you just don't see that scale of change because you're way up here in the big body size. You don't see that little version.
Kind of like looking at the stars. Is like the stars don't stay exactly where they are. It looks like it because we're so far away, but those stars are in motion too, and we're in a different motion. They're all moving around.
Mm-hmm. It's just you can't see it. It's so subtle, like the hands of a clock. It's always moving. But wait a minute, there's more. Like I said, that's not what's moving. The particles aren't moving at all. It's your consciousness that's shifting through the dimension of time, creating the illusion of movement. Like the infinite fractal thing we did that one time that you found and we showed, and I'm like, yeah, if you think of reality more like a giant fractal, a hyperdimensional fractal, not a two-dimensional, a hyperdimensional fractal in which like you can have shadows of like 4, 5, and 6-dimensional things looking like 3-dimensional objects type of shit. If you think of the universe more as a fractal, you're getting closer at that point. Because then you realize that what's happening is you're not actually moving through anything. The fractal is developing because consciousness is moving through the equation, we'll say, through the iterations of the equation. And that is not accurate, but that's a better analogy.
So I want to wrap this up. Like, I don't want to cut things off, but we have been talking about it for a while, and I do have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Are you ready for one?
I don't know. Where's Gogo? Did I break Gogo's brain yet with the heaven and hell question? Or maybe he's not here anymore. Maybe they're going to watch it later.
Oh, no. If you're here, Gogo, tell us. Is that enough for you to chew on?
I want to say this last thing. Heaven and hell is not a place. It is not a time. It's not a destination. It's not a source. Heaven and hell is a state of experience, a state of being, a state of mind, a state of psyche, a state of soul. Heaven and hell can be experienced in the incarnate or discarnate form. Heaven and hell is, when we think of heaven and hell, like I die and I go to heaven or hell, no. Now, here's the thing though. In a manner of speaking, why not? If there's an infinite multiverse potential, that means that there could be a universe in the multiverse that looks just like what we'd call hell. There could even be a personal hell where you're living the worst moments of your life over and over and over again. There could be a personal heaven, which is the same, but opposite.
That personal hell is called right before you fall asleep. You got racing thoughts.
Let me ask you a question, all of you who believe in heaven and hell. What is heaven like? Oh, well, I know it's really great. It's pleasure, never ending, blah, 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 blah. Well, what about the Christian heaven? Well, the Christian heaven, you got to praise God all the time. So that kind of sounds like it might be fun for a little bit, but then it gets kind of sucky because you're kind of worship. Wait, that's the demiurge. We're not going to talk about that. Okay, let's talk about just straight up heaven, non-denominational heaven. You go to heaven, it's just pure happiness all the time. Oh boy, every day you wake up and your favorite breakfast is always there and you're getting laid the whole time. Everything that you find pleasurable just constantly happening. Oh my goodness. In fact, you don't even have any doubt that it's going to happen.
That's fucking dopamine burnout.
What's going to happen? Eventually you're going to get bored as fuck of that because you're going to know everything that's coming. You're going to know every experience.
At least in fucking hell, the devil puts a little bit of effort into keeping you surprised.
Well, let's go. Let's finish out this heaven thought. So heaven is this boring ass place where you're not only experiencing pleasure all the time to the point where you don't get to experience pleasure anymore because it gets numb. You're also supposed to be sitting there praising God all the time with glory, glory, hallelujah. The whole time. Well, this sounds like after a while you get numb to the pleasure, and after a while all you got is the service. All you got is the chore. This is starting to sound more like hell all the time. It would get to the point where pleasure would become hell because you'd be like, fuck, not my favorite breakfast again. Can I please be surprised? Can someone please kick me in the balls? Anything, please. Wouldn't happen. It would be like hell for you. Well, let's reverse this. This is where it gets funny. Let's say you go to hell. And it's just ball kicking all day long and you're eating hot lead all day and man, you can't die and it's just torture and torture and torture and torture and holy fuck. Well, what's going to happen? After a while, that constant pain gets to be numb too. You get bored of that. You don't even, you're like, yeah, cut my arm off again. Good one, Lucifer. That's really fucked. If you're a Christian, you think that way. Oh, there goes a demon, stab him in the asshole again. That's fucking great. Yeah, I like the red hot poker. That's better than the barbed one. My point is after a while, that becomes numb too. So what ends up happening? Hell kind of starts seeming like not that big a deal, doesn't it? After a while, hell just becomes another day. Becomes another numbness. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen a depiction of hell where you're supposed to worship anything. It's just an orgy of fucking sadistic shit. So at some point you go, maybe it'll be fun to do this to other people. And you graduate, you become a demon and you're stabbing people in the ass. Hey, this is better than getting it in the ass. Oh, wait, I'm starting to have fun. Oh, there goes one in the ass again. I feel it again. Do you guys see the point I'm trying to make? Is that you can't have one of anything without the other somehow? That leads to dualistic thinking, but we got to follow that tangent.
You make hell sound like being a buy switch at a dom-dominated orgy. Some people will get that.
I don't. I wish I did. But I was going to say, like, when you're saying, like, what, L.A.? I don't know. But that's only funny to people who don't live in L.A., I guess. So when we have these ideas of heaven and hell, I would encourage you to start looking more at the cycle of samsara. And you recognize that the only way off is to go to the middle, to go to the hub. Because as you go up, you go into the heavens, and then you get bored, and then you go down into depravity, and then the hells, and then you get bored of that, and you come back up to the material. And you keep cycling around and around and around and around. There's nothing wrong with it. Just know that that's what it is. That's the theory. That's the principle of the cycle of samsara. And it's the same as the Ouroboros. It's the same as all these little occult symbols of the snake eating its tail. It's all the same. It's the same thing. It's just expressed in different cultures, different ways. It's the exact same story, though.
So we have a question. This one is from a little while ago. Scarlett was asking, how has your working going with the shadow people? I remember you talking about a project you were doing with the shadow.
Well, I don't know. That's probably some old stuff. I've switched off a lot of stuff that I was doing. I've kind of reinvented my brain again. I do that every year or so. I don't know what part of me is in Gemini, but apparently none of them. And apparently that's my Gemini way of being Gemini without letting anybody know I'm a Gemini. So I flip-flop all over the place. But yeah, no, maybe I'm a stealth Gemini. No, I'm honestly, here's the thing.
As a Gemini, you're very Gemini.
I think I can be anyway. But I'm an Aries kind of Gemini. I do that shit extra hard. No, but for real. As someone, I'm going to say this to you, everybody. It's going to sound a little arrogant maybe, but it's not. It's meant to be like encouragement. If your worldview doesn't change dramatically, if your practices don't change dramatically on a regular or irregular basis, but often, and you call yourself an occultist, a mystic, you're doing it wrong. I'm not saying you don't have a seed idea that stays. I'm saying if all the other shit becomes a religion, you're doing it wrong.
There was somebody who said a person who is not changed in 5 years has wasted 5 years.
Yes, very good way to put it. So when I tell you that there's going to come a time where I'm going to look at Shadownomicon and want to burn it and say it was wrong, even though it all happened the way I described. If that doesn't happen, that means I was lying to you somehow, or I'm afraid to tell you the truth. I am convinced that just like with Become the Maelstrom, when I wrote it, it was the greatest work of magical writing I'd ever done. Maybe par with some of the okay ones that are out there. So a lot of you guys love it, and I don't shit on that. But I look at it now and I go, man, this is almost like my first grade fucking notebook. Damn, I could do so much better now. Oh, I thought that. Oh, man. Oh, this is embarrassing. No, that's pretty good, but I could update that.
There's a reason why all the really good musicians stop liking their first album.
Yeah. Which, you know, I mean, unless you're Slayer, that makes sense because their first couple albums were fucking awesome. Same with Typo Negative. Like, they should never have gone to anything else. But no, you're totally right. That's exactly true.
I mean, yes, from our perspective, but from the creators, from the one who penned it.
No, I get it.
I understand.
I'm just being facetious. Now someone's going to like fucking take that out and say, he's fascist. No, I said I'm facetious.
Don't clip it.
But when you see, well, see, I was like, oh man, I got to stop recording. But if you look, you'll notice that in all my books, past, present, or future, some form, some iteration, some way of describing the monist non-dual perspective will probably always be there. I say that because non-dualism was never a thing I was convinced of. Monism was never something that I decided. It's something I experienced. When you experience it, you don't come back from that by argument. For example, if I showed Fleshy a sunset, and Fleshy's going, wow, that's a beautiful sunset. Ha, I fooled you. That's a projection on a screen.
Did you just shadow into cave me?
Right. You'll be sitting there going like, well, no, fuck you, because even if that wasn't a real sunset, I saw a sunset. You can't take away what I saw. So I can prove to you that it wasn't an actual sunset, but that doesn't mean you didn't see orange and yellow and brilliant colors and feel the warmth on your face. All of that happened. I can't take that away from you by any argument. Non-dual monism, when you reach that point of ego dissolution, when you have that moment, that epiphany, that revelation, that I'm everything, when that happens, and it really happens, that you can forget it. You can forget what it is like. You can go back to being a person, but you can't say it didn't happen. You can't be argued out of that experience. It's never going away. You can only find new things that go with it. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense.
From the half an ear I was paying attention with while talking to chat, it made perfect sense.
Well, then I'm asking chat then.
Chat's just focused on the bi argument.
I see that. I think you guys come here for the spiritual shit, but you stay for the fucking weird trolly shit that goes on in the comments. But yeah, so as we explore all of this, will there be more work with Shadownomicon type stuff? Absolutely, but it may evolve. That's not to say that you can't benefit. So when I say that it's going to be stuff, I'm going to look back and I'll go, oh, I really wrote that. Damn it. What the hell was I thinking? That doesn't mean it won't work for you.
It's like, I don't know why my brain went to like survival games. It's just like, I don't know, say you're in Valheim or something. I made this great little house and it was perfect and a representation of everything I needed at the time. And it no longer is. Mm-hmm. The inspiration and, the true calling of what I need has not changed. That connection to source or whatever is still there, but that house no longer serves what I'm interested in. So I built a new one.
Yeah, it's like somebody outgrow your house.
Yeah. Somebody wandering along could come across that and it will serve them perfectly. And there's nothing invalid about that. It's just for me, the person who built that house, it's no longer what I need.
I think you just described reincarnation in every moment of life.
And I did it using video games? Oh, fuck. Oh, God, they're going to call me a nerd. All of me is going to call me a nerd.
Think about that, guys. Think about what he just said about the house. Now, by analogy, tune that into your body and your everyday life. If you walk into your child's playing room, I mean, the playing room you played in as a child is what I'm really saying. If you walk into that room and you go, man, I remember that being a lot cooler, that little set of Diplo blocks that I used to make fucking shit on the floor with that I don't even know what it was. That was pretty cool. I remember those Robotech toys, those Transformers. I remember G.I. Joe. And each step of the way you go, man, they're pretty cool and they mean something to me, but they're not for me anymore.
But still,
well, guess what's gonna happen 20 years from now? What's going to happen in 40 years from now, 50 years from now, on your deathbed? Quote unquote deathbed. All of this stuff passes for a very similar reason. Because you don't need it anymore. Mm-hmm. A wise person once said that life is a lesson in non-attachment. Every moment that goes by, we are taught to let go of what we think is permanent and must be ours. Life is a lesson in impermanence. More than anything else. If it's a lesson at all, the lesson it's teaching is impermanence, not attachment. And the way we get led through that is by the nose of desire. Oh, I want this now. Oh, I want that now. Oh, I want the way it was, but I can't have it. That's how you get taught. And the more you get taught that lesson, the harder you get taught, the easier it gets after a while. And at some point, you're going to be laying there like, oh, fuck, just delete my fucking browser history before I go.
But take what he said and put it on a spiritual level. We're all just like, oh, throw me in a new one. Throw me in a new one. Delete this one's browser history. Oh, fuck. Fuck it. I want to go back to being Thorne. I don't want to be flesh anymore.
So... will I do more Shadownomicon stuff? Integrated with newer, better things, yes. But as its own thing, probably not. My next phase as I see it right now, I don't want to talk about too much because then I shoot my load and then I don't feel like doing it anymore. The new phase is to create a self-initiation program, spiritual successor to become the Maelstrom. You all know about what I've been doing, sort of, and I've been perfecting it and improving it. And eventually I want it to become a thing that people can use for self-initiatory purposes. And what began as something I want to give away for free because it was going to be 1,200 words or whatever, I can't do anymore because it's way too much research and work. It's got to be a regular book at this point. But the point is not to create a gatekeeping system of initiation where you got to finish this and buy this next book and graduate. No, you follow along at your own pace. And if you finish this first book, you're more advanced than 90% of the people that you're going to run into. Because most people who think they're an adept are really still basic bitch motherfuckers. And I mean that with all the negativity in my voice.
Ouch.
I'm serious, man. I look at it all the time. I'm looking at it. That's what got me going on this superstitious kick today. So I'm reading comments in these fucking chat rooms and shit. And people are saying these really superstitious, blind ass fucking things. And I go, nope. And I'm not just being judgy. I'm not just doing that. My truth has to be your truth. I'm saying on some level I can go, no, you're just fanficking spirituality. You're not actually spiritualizing. You're not actually like, it's like when people arguing about Spider-Man, versus Batman or something. You're arguing fictions. You're not arguing the thing behind it.
We're all just writing our own fan fiction and arguing what of it is canon. It's all our fucking fanfics.
Yeah, that's fair. But there comes a point where it's like you're taking the fan fiction too seriously and you think that's what's real and it's not. So I get a lot of people who think they're adepts. Lowland asks, is DH going to create a Scientology too? We're going to have to ask Eddie on that to make sure, because I think he'll have some wise words to veer me off of that. No, nothing like that. Yeah, that's Eddie's thing. Occult Scientology is his thing.
It's going to be less focused on naval shit and a lot more on martial warfare.
I mean,
it's like basically go through Scientology and run a find and replace tool, and I don't know, put in bow staff or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I was going to describe it, and I wouldn't, but I'm going to anyway. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to anyway because it's subject to change.
Oh, so we have a new question right here.
It would be a synthesis and intersection of non-duality, Gnostic Luciferianism. Hold on, let me fix this. And a little bit of Sumerian thrown in just for fun. Sumerian celestial understanding, planetary magic and shit thrown in. How much of that's going to actually get in, I don't know. And it's maybe just a work of vanity at this point. Maybe I shouldn't care. Maybe I should, you know what I probably should do? To be brutally honest with all of you, you know what I really should do? I should end the stream right now. Delete my YouTube channel. Disappear off of the internet. Take my little meager earnings that I got from all of this, and then just live what I'm talking about and say to hell with the rest of you. And I say that without any negativity. I say that with abandon. Like, you know what? All of this is just farting in the wind. It's all just spitting into the wind. It's all just
with non-attachment.
It's all just bullshit. It's all just a way for me to show off that I've done it. And by showing off that I've done it, I'm just a blabbermouth. I'm not actually accomplishing anything. This is why, like, one of the reasons I love Alan Watts is he comes right out in the front and says, I am an entertainer. That is what I am. I am not a guru. I'm not a teacher. I am not your master. I am an entertainer. So with that in mind, people don't realize there's a sacrifice going on when you create some of this stuff and put it out there. There's a little bit of a sacrifice that happens when you achieve a certain measure. When I say achieve, you don't achieve it. I should say when you recognize a certain amount of enlightenment in yourself. There's a certain sacrifice being made when you go out and proclaim it to the world and talk about it. This is why a bodhisattva in the Eastern traditions is someone who's achieved it and then turns around and goes back and tries to save everybody else. There's someone who is enlightened. They've recognized their Buddha nature fully, but they've decided that they're not done yet. They're not ready to move on. They want to stay here and reach out to everybody else. So, am I doing it for that reason, or am I just being selfish and saying, well, you know, if I put out a new book, I don't have to get a full-time job. I can stay with a part-time job. There's some truth in that. That's at least part of the inspiration for it. Yes. I'm not going to lie. Is it because I think I have something meaningful to say? Nothing that people haven't said before, just in a way maybe you've never heard. Maybe my job is to condense the wisdom of the ages into a format that edgy Luciferian Satanists will like. And like Jesus in the trenches, I'm leading you back to your true self. Maybe. Turning myself into a bit of a messiah there. That's pretty cool. But no. It's probably more the first one with a little bit of the second one.
I think on a certain level too, it's just like, why do we do these things? There's no point, but we enjoy it.
Let me give you the real answer though. And it's closer to what you just said. If I had a reason for doing what I'm doing, I wouldn't be doing it. Because that would be a hollow thing. I'd burn out on it and I'd be bored. Do you know why I do it? Do you know why I sit here week after week rambling about non-duality and spirits for hours and hours and hours on end? Because I literally can't stop. I'm literally unable to stop.
You're forgive me if this is like assuming or anything, but you're lonely on a mountain and you want some people to talk to.
There is that. Maybe it's all the above. Maybe that's why I can't stop, is because I'm desperately going, come on, somebody's got to see it. And all the people that I know saw it are either dead or on another continent or whatever, and I can't. And I'm not sure I'd want to talk to them, because we just sit around going, yep. It do be that way, though, don't it? That would be the extent of our conversations. So, why do I do any of it, man? Why do you do any of it? Why are you here every week, Fleshy? Is it really that much fun, or has it become a habit?
I enjoy it. Like I told you, if I stopped enjoying it, I wouldn't be here.
Right? So, ultimately, we do things for what reason? To follow our bliss. Bliss is the misinterpreted understanding of heaven. People think that heaven is happiness everlasting. No, bliss is what you're looking for, not happiness everlasting. Happiness and bliss are not the same. Bliss includes torment. If you really understand the word bliss, you understand that it does include pain. It includes torment. It includes suffering. It includes all of those things. Bliss is not pure pleasure and happiness. It is found only in the constant flow and the understanding that it's what it is, and you just flow. It's peace. It is true tranquility and peace, even in the midst of agony. But Thorne, how can that be? I've lost my leg in the war. I know it sucks. You're lying. You're full of shit. It's never happened to you. You've never suffered. You don't know what pain is. Relax.
You've never walked uphill in the snow both ways.
Relax. Okay. You know how I know? Obviously, I've suffered in my life. Everyone has. But that's not how I know. You know how I know? Because I play video games. And I'll play
just
something.
Clip it right there. Clip it right there.
And you know how that makes me know? Because having had my non-dual experience, I realized that it's really not that different from playing a video game. As we're playing this video game, we have a sense of I'm here and that character is there, and anything that happens to that character isn't me, but I love watching it happen to that character. I'm watching this and going, man, it really sucks when I have like a really bad KDD and fucking planet side, but it's kind of good if I'm capping the fucking goal. Hey, I don't really give a shit then if I die that much if I'm a hero. But, you know, it's all towards a purpose. But even if not, I'm having fun shooting at people. That's cool. And even if I'm getting shot, I'm still having fun because it's a video game, right? So all of those layers of enjoyment, that bliss that I have while I'm playing, requires people shooting at me and me losing. It requires me having good days and bad days in the game. And it requires the possibility of my character getting blown the fuck up by some asshole putting a mine somewhere that I didn't see. Oh, it requires that.
How shitty would Mass Effect be if you didn't have the fucking, you know, spoilers. I'm going to say that because I'm suddenly forgetting the names of planets and such. But anybody who's played it, you know the fucking moments in that game. Mass Effect would fucking suck without that shit.
Right.
I want to hurt. I want to hurt because it makes when I fucking twist the knife in the big bad villain that much better.
Sure does. Yeah.
Until some asshole little kid shows up and offers me 3 colors.
Why do you guys like horror movies and tragedies? Why do you guys like them? How could they be fun? If only pleasure was what you wanted, how dare you watch a horror movie? Silly people. This is why I laugh at people who get so hung up on, well, you know, magic is here to make my life better, and I'm supposed to become rich and fuck many women or men or whatever the fuck. I'm supposed to have what I want, and it's a vending machine for my wishes. And I go, boy, you really are on a highway to hell, aren't you? You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Not the fun one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as above, so below. It's going to fuck you up a little bit, buddy.
Yeah. Because if it didn't, you wouldn't enjoy it. Remember what I said before about heaven and hell?
Look at the most love and light people who are just like, it is all bliss. It is all everything. They are also the people who are, we need to put up our defenses. We need to play fucking spiritual racquetball with the people who are sending curses to us because there is evil out there that we must combat.
We must march against this. We must storm this capital or yell at people storming that capital or whatever. They've all got their thing. Even me, by the way, just in case you think I'm being a hypocrite, just check the Paul channel. You'll see what I mean. So it's really dumb when we get into this idea that bliss means something other than what? So ultimate bliss is ultimate peace, but how can this be? So level 1 understanding is bliss requires pleasure and pain. Level 2 understanding is that bliss is peace. What is peace? Well, it's the absence of anything traumatizing. Oh, no. It's not quite what it is. Absolute peace can only be found in the absolute unification of all opposites. When all opposites have been unified, all the good and all the bad, all the happiness and all the pain, when everything is one, it becomes a roaring silence. It becomes a blinding blackness of light. It becomes the ultimate paradox in which you have no contemplation. It goes away. All of it goes away. And the only thing that is left is peace and bliss. This is why, ultimately, though I am not an Advaitin non-dualist, as a non-dualist, they are correct with Saschitananda when they say that the nature of reality is non-dual, meaning there is but one, undivided, without a second. It is boundless and infinite, or at least boundless. And we know only 3 things of it that we can say with any certainty. It exists, it is conscious, and it is bliss. Because when we remove all the things that are not the one, the source, the true zero, the true one, whatever you want to call it, when we remove all the things that we think of as the self, all that is left is we know we exist, we are conscious, and it is blissful and peaceful. But that is still illusory because you're not removing anything. You're unifying everything. You think you're excluding reality. That's the joke. When people start doing meditation, they think, well, I got to shut my brain up. I got to exclude the universe and quiet it all, make it go away. Sure, you can do it that way. But that's not how you do it. It's actually a state in which you may begin that way, but you end up just totally vibing with everything all at once, to the point where it looks like blackness and stillness and silence, but you know that that black, still silence, that oblivion is everything all at once. And it's contained in a way that you can't comprehend as an ego. You're not supposed to.
Would you say, for a metaphor, it's not finding your people and building a tribe where only you and your people exist and everyone else can fuck off, they don't exist? It's just being able to get along with everybody and find some connection in all.
Nope.
Saying as a metaphor.
Even that connection's too far. No, it is more like being in the middle of the biggest crowd and not acknowledging a bit of it, not talking to anyone, not having them talk to you, but knowing it's all there. Seeing everybody at once, hearing every conversation at once, knowing every thought at once, every body, everything that there is at once, and not engaging with it. It is being submersed in the entire ocean. This is why a lot of people, when they enter that state, will compare it sometimes to that. They'll compare it to going underwater. Because when you submerge yourself into the infinite, it's exactly like that. So when we live a life, we're doing the intimacy thing, which requires relativism and personal perspective. When we're doing the God thing, it's indescribable. And it's not a literal. You know, people be like, well, Thorne, if you're God, then you can tell me what color underwear I'm wearing right now. Probably blue. But that's not the point. The point is, it's not that. Right. Omniscience looks like blackness to a limited being in an incarnated state. Omniscience from the perspective of God is all things at once. That is that total all-knowing thing. But what would that be like? It would be like nothing. I mean, people are saying it. Roll's saying no separation, fish is the water. Yes, and this is why it's so difficult to describe. You can only go there. You can't talk about it. That's what the word gnosis means. That's what the word samadhi means. They're very similar words. Satori's a little different. Zen's a little different. But they're related. They're interrelated a lot. So having gnosis of your true self is disappointing to the person stuck in the ego world. They'll actually achieve it and go, well, that's not it. That's just boring nothingness. Okay. This is why it's frustrating when you try to teach people this, when you try to talk about it, because it is obvious. It's as obvious as seeing through your eyeballs obvious. You can't see your eyeballs. That's why you can see through them. It's as obvious as that. But since you can't see it, you don't realize you're seeing through it. It's always there. Always, every moment of your life, it's there. But you're so busy looking for experiences to be the thing, not realizing that the experiences are just pieces that are distracting you. You know, people think that seeing everything at once, being God, being omniscient, would be like being aware of everything at once and being able to distinguish. The distinction of everything at once is not omniscience. Omniscience is the knowledge of everything at once. There is a difference. To have the distinct knowledge of everything as separate at once cannot be done at once. It can only be done by separating yourself in time and space and having here and now experiences forever and ever and ever. This is why you're reincarnating all the time, because you are that infinite thing that at any point goes to that infinity at any time it wants, and then goes, yeah, this is cool, and I'm peaceful and blissful, but you know what? I love Legend of Zelda. Let's go plug this in.
It's looking at the entire chunk of marble and knowing that could be a dude, that could be an angel, that could be a dog.
Because in one of the chapters that I deleted, I literally compared it to a piece of marble. And then realizing that you are that marble looking at yourself. And all of the little things you see in that marble are just decisions you've made to count those shapes more than the other ones. Because for all you know, that thing that looks like a splat is actually a Zarnob from the planet 6 that actually has 10 kids and just looks to you like a splat because you don't know what a Zarnob is, or whatever I called them. You just don't know right now what that is. This is why there's a theory in science that says aliens could be around us all the time right now, and we don't know because we think they're trees or something. We think that they're just, smoke or something stupid. Yeah. We can't see them because we think of life only in this one limited way. We don't know what else it could be. Well, in the same sense, you could be seeing an infinity right now in front of you, but it looks like this because you're focusing your attention on these shapes as opposed to the other ones. What is a table to a cat? So to you, it's a table. It's a thing that's flat. Somebody made it. You put stuff on it. To a cat, that's like a plateau or a mountain or building, or you don't know what the fuck it is. What do they see when they see a table?
The great hollow plateau of observement.
Right, exactly. Right. What do they see? What is a table to a cat? What is a star to a being that has telescopic eyes or can see in colors you can't see? Like what does a fish, what does a mosquito look like to a bat in the dark?
We are just zebra apes to the mantis shrimp.
Yeah, did you guys know that if you look at yourself through the right spectrum, you're actually like totally like just like rainbowy and like covered with all kinds of stripes and shit? Like women are more stripy than men. Like it's really wild.
Oh, good. I was wondering if anybody would pick up that reference. You did.
Yeah, I did. Because I know from my bird, because birds see a little bit more ultraviolet than we do. And I often wonder, does he see a little bit of ultraviolet? Does my wife look stripy to him? I don't know, maybe.
Everybody is suddenly like, what the fuck is he talking about? I was down with the non-dual thing, but now he's saying that women are stripy? What the fuck?
I think some people just tune in to see how off the wall I'll get.
It is a fun drinking game.
Yeah. I start off wanting to talk about other stuff, but then to explain that stuff, I've got to center you on... I hope you guys are on board with it, because that's like the foundational chapters of every book are going to be something non-dual before I move on to anything else, always. Because without it, everything else just becomes a fucking superstitious game. I can't stand it.
I really see it like... kind of like, not The Princess Bride, that's not a good example, almost like Romeo and Juliet. Of the story opens by saying they're gonna fucking kill themselves. Now let me tell you the story.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, you might be wondering how I got here.
Yeah, exactly that record scratch of, I think that, while I don't always care for that trope in media, I think that is a good way to...
It's fair.
You talk about some of this stuff of, this is what things are. Now let's take a step back and let me show you how I got here.
And you'll notice, and this is one of the early chapters. I shouldn't be saying so much because I'm just going to fucking blow my load. One of my early chapters is talking about the myth and allegory, which is the language of the mystic, because you can't say what can't be spoken of.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to do it indirectly. And so... one of the things that I borrow from is when I watch science programs and you have like, various science person on the screen. And what do they always do? I always love watching, especially from like the 90s and the early millennium. You'd have like some physicist on the top of a roller coaster, somehow using the roller coaster for a metaphor for atomic interaction or some shit. And it's like the wildest, funkiest comparison. You're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's pretty cool. And they found a way to make it interesting. And the analogies were helpful. Well, guess where they got that from? They got that because that is how the mystery schools taught one another, by using myth and metaphor. What everyone takes as literal and runs around worshiping is meant to direct your attention towards something that cannot be spoken of using metaphor, myth, and egregoric spirits, I maintain. I'm not saying that you can't engage with spirits. I'm saying recognize what they are and you'll go really far with them.
It's like, it's almost like trying to explain somebody what a runner's high is without them ever running it. You know, if you engage with them to like, just run. Like, you must complete this grand journey from Greece to, I don't know, fucking bumfuck France. Oh, suddenly I understand now that I'm fucking exhausted and I'm fucking seeing owls peck at my flesh. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an easier one though. Imagine a person who has never noticed the sensation of hot before, but they've lived in hot their whole life. You've got a word for hot. If I say fleshy, that's hot. You go, oh yeah, I know what that means. So how do you tell somebody what the word hot means if they've never heard the word hot before?
It's like, it's like the opposite of everything you've ever been living in. Like, imagine all of this right here. Now imagine if that wasn't.
You just described transcendental meditation, by the way. So yes, Alex, the kid, even you're an egregore. When you figure that out, that's when you get your little square hat. Not when you hear it and believe it, when you figure it out. That's when you get your square hat. You're an egregore. Everything's egregore. Goetic spirits are absolutely egregores. Every god you've ever heard of is an egregore. Every ghost you've ever imagined is an egregore.
And
your Aunt Sally's an egregore.
And let's take a step back for the superstitious. That does not invalidate the importance because, like we said, you are a fucking egregore too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So back to the hot thing. So the word hot, how would you explain it to somebody? Well, there's a couple of ways. I could go to my stove and put something on the stove till it's red hot and stick it on you. Well, that's too hot. That's a burn now. That's not hot. That's a fire. It sucks. They might confuse the red hot poker for the heat. They'll think that when you say hot, you're talking about the red hot poker. Well, you're not. You're talking about the feeling of hot. So that's not going to do. So what do you end up having to do? You've got to remove every other possible stimulus, put them in a dark room or something where they're sitting over a radiator vent that doesn't blow at all because you don't want them to confuse the blowing. You just want the temperature to rise so that they're limited to as few possible distractions as possible. Then you say that's hot. Then they really know what you mean by hot. But you don't know for sure that feeling of hot that they're feeling is the same hot feeling you felt. So all you're agreeing on is that you both would experience what you call hot when that happens to you. You're not actually agreeing on what actually hot is. Your mom's an egregore, damn right.
That's one of the dangers of this is we can never, not even dangers, just facts of life maybe might be more appropriate. We can never really truly understand if your blue is the same as my blue, if the way that you understand things is exactly the same way that I understand things, but we can both say that we understand.
Like we can both point at the sky and say, I see that as blue, but whether it looks red to you or not, no way to know. But we can at least agree that far, that when we both look over there, we'll agree to call that blue, even if that looks like red to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as far as we can go. And that's an important tip. That's an important insight. That's an important clue that you're giving yourself when you realize that. Because you've got to ask questions. That's a paradox. It's a weird question. You've got to step away from what you think is real and recognize all of that is like a holographic hallucination that's happening somewhere else. Or should I say happening inside something else. The blue is not out there. The blue is somewhere in here.
So we
CJ, what's up, CJ?
Yeah.
Read it for me, baby.
Yeah, we got a super chat. And after that, it's been a while. I actually want to read a story.
Oh, I'd love to have a story. Good. Give me a chance to shut the fuck up.
But first, the all-important CJ Anger. It's been a while, by the way. Miss you, dude. So appreciate the super chat. Mr. Anger says, when one lives in a place hostile to magic, how can they perform ritual magic, such as that out of a grimoire, without the tools that are said to be needed in the ritual, if there is such a way?
In my opinion, it's easy. And this is because the tools are symbolic. They're not actually... The tools themselves don't do anything.
Yeah.
I've got a cool one. Go ahead, Fleshy. You talk about it.
I actually think this can be very related to what we were talking about just now, is that I really, really think the tools are there because, let's face it, they're fucking cool. Do I think that you need that pure silver blade made in the first moon of October with the blood of a virgin? No, you don't fucking need that. Why the fuck would you need that? But it's cool, and I would love one. It helps get your mind into that state of just thinking a certain way, but it's not needed whatsoever.
This is one of those nice Harry Potter style wands that I modded and made myself with a crystal that I wrapped myself. And anybody who's into this kind of shit would go, yes, I want a wand like that. Sell me a wand like that. Let me make a wand. That must be, and it feels powerful because of the weight and the way, and I know I made it. There's no denying that this enhances what I'm doing. But in no way does it enable what I'm doing. In no way does it. So how do I know that you can do magic without all of this shit? Because I've done my best work just going for a walk with a stick in my hand, a staff in my hand. Didn't even need that. That's just for a prop. And looking out into the world and seeing what I wanted to see and commanding what I wanted to command that way. Drawing sigils in the dirt. None of these things actually matter because they don't exist the way you think they do. They're all illusory facades for something else anyway. So why not bypass the illusion and go right to the source? Now people go, so that means all you got to do is imagine it. It's not what I'm saying. Your imagination is actually part of the problem. If you take your imagination to be literal, your imagination is a symbol too. You've got to look past what you see in the illusion of your imagination to get to the source that's projecting it. What is hot without the word? What is blue without the description? What is that? Okay, good. You've got the sensory experience. Now go beyond that. Ooh, now we're getting hard to do. But that's where you got to go. So let me give you a tip. Let me make it. Let's bring it back down to earth instead of like all this wild mystical shit.
Yeah,
let's bring it back down to earth.
We're attacking the high level here, but let's get to low level practical.
I just gave you the answer. Now I got to tell you how you get there. You know, record skip. So how did I get here? Well, let's use the example of a wand. What is a wand the symbol for? The wand is the symbol for fire, which is the creative force, the energy, the projection of force, the projection of creativity. It's the male phallic symbol. Okay, among other things, there's so many things that it describes. This is why you have to create it at a certain time of year according to certain traditions and make it out of certain wood if you want to do it right and carve the right shit in and blah, 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 blah. It is a symbol for something. The wand itself is nothing. So if you know that the wand is a symbol or something else, do you need to use the wand to symbolize that again? No. If I need to symbolize the creative force of power, of fire, I know that there's a mudra, which I use the wand mudra. If I need to symbolize the dagger, I use the dagger mudra. Very similar. You just cross them. But I don't even have to do that. If I need, for example, a fire, well, you know what I'm going to do if I can't light a fire in my house for whatever reason?
I'll be right back in 1 second.
Fire. I now have fire. But not just draw it. I've got to really draw into that drawing fire. I've got to really intensely associate that, not with that, by the way, but what that symbolizes. Because that's also, this flame is also just a symbol for fire. That's not fire either. That's just a symbol for fire. So is this. So how would I do magic if I couldn't because I had like annoying parents or something?
You fucking stay.
That's right. You fucking stay. So how would I do magic without the ability to do it with the ritual tools? Well, I'd be doing a lot of doodling probably. I would be getting into Dungeons and Dragons and I'd be using little figurines to represent my idols. And I would be using the little miniatures to represent the altars and shit. I'd find a way to symbolically represent everything if I needed the symbols.
It sounds like you actually just hit on exactly what I wanted to bring up. Is that, forgive me if this is trekking over old ground right now, but I was going to say, if you want those symbols, like you've covered that they're not needed, of course, but if you still want to engage with that and perform it as one-to-one as you can within these grimoires, yes, rewire, relink. You know, your ritual blade is a pocket knife.
Bingo. Just keep it sacred, that's all. If you're going to do it that way, try to keep it sacred. Like, yes, don't use that as a box cutter.
Yeah, don't carry this around with you at all times. Do, as you say in Become the Maelstrom, you don a specific garb for this. You only use this for those purposes. These are set aside and sacred, just to further that bond and further that link. Correct. You know, if you're doing this out in nature, your wand, good old walking stick. You can even have that in your house or whatever, you know, your cauldron, nice stone cup that you get from Goodwill or something, like a one-to-one, link these things to something else, something completely mundane. There's actually a lot of people who do this stuff just using common items. Like, oh, wow, you've got all that stuff set aside in your closet. That's really interesting. I don't see you hike that much. Oh, yeah, but I've been thinking about it, you know, just keeping this trusty walking stick around for a good time.
And just somewhere along the line, you transcend even that. The common mistake is to think that that means you can do all your magic in your head. That's improper because reality is a holistic experience. Reality consists of mind, body, and soul. They're not separate. They're still one thing, but they're three expressions of the one. Okay? If you want to fully engage with the one, until or unless you can get there intuitively without this, which pretty much nobody alive can, you still need to go there indirectly. Even if you're able to achieve the gnosis state, you can do magic in the gnosis state. That's the point of chaos magic. You hit the gnosis state and bang, stuff happens. What I'm getting at, though, is you still usually need stepping stones to get there. Well, you really should have a mental, a physical, and a spiritual component to all ritual. But there is no specific requirement for the mental or the physical or the spiritual to be a specific thing. The idea that you need to have a dagger, a grimoire, a circle, you know, a specific kind of metal, all of this stuff is not really necessary. But, and here's a caveat to that, you're not supposed to cut corners either. There is something to be said, and I've had some of the best success when I do take it seriously, and I don't just go, well, I don't actually need a fire, I can draw a picture of it. Because sometimes the way that you make sometimes the way that you make that fire sacred is by the challenge of acquiring it. So sometimes the difficulty in doing it is what charges it. So that's why I'll put, and other people have put in their books, oh, you need My favorite was, and I don't like the guy anymore, but he, in one of his books, he recommended you get an antique mirror that's blah, 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 blah. And so I went out of my way to find an antique mirror that looked right, felt right, that was just, and I found one, and there's like a cool story around it, how I got it. And that made that mirror so much more powerful for scrying and all the purposes I used it for.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if I just went to the bargain bin and grabbed a fucking cheapo compact, and, oh, it was used. Oh, that's all it needs to be is used. You know, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So by going through that challenge of acquiring that hard to find item, that made it more powerful. So when a grimoire says that your wand needs to be made in, you know, what is it, the summer months or whatever, and it's got to be made of this wood and have these symbols on it, those specific things aren't important. But what makes it more powerful is because you did all that. And along the way, that charges it because you now have, I went to a lot of trouble to get this sword or this dagger or this wand or this ritual temple. I better treat it with some sacredness. And subconsciously now it has that. And so all of these things are layers of delusion. And magical props, though they're delusional, they have an interesting way of sort of cutting through the veil for you. Because you've created these props for that purpose. And by engaging with them, some part of you says, I better get out of the way now because this is magic is happening.
Don't you think that that's the reason why they put it in there like that? To lube the initiate's mind into, I have all these magical things, therefore magic is going to happen. And
absolutely part of it.
The people who, you know, magic doesn't happen, and I've fallen into this, is like, oh, well, I must have just fucked it up. The silver must have not been pure silver. There must be a little bit of copper in that or something. Oh, I need to get better reagents.
And the exact opposite is why a charlatan's rituals can still work.
Yes.
Because they're not the one doing the magic, you are. It's always you. Even when it's them. They just
provide you with the lube.
They provide you with the lube. This is why when people say, do you think such and so magician's legit? Even if I go, no, they're a fraud, I'm not going to necessarily say that because it still might work for you.
Yeah. Like, I might not like them, but that house may be exactly what you need right now.
Bingo. I still want to say I hate them. I still want to turn you off from them because I fucking hate them. But yeah, no, I got to admit, this is why people will be like, now, to be fair, I'm not saying that EA is a fraud or that anyone like that's a fraud. But when people say, well, I think he's a fraud, and I play devil's advocate, and I'll say, well, even if he is a fraud, it still works. People say, well, Necronomicon's a fraud because it's made up. How do you know the Goetia wasn't made up? It was, by the way.
We're all made up.
It's all made up, fool.
This made up shit is useful, though.
So the only reason I'm not a chaos magician is only because of the certain foundational metaphysics of chaos magic. I think chaos magic, though, is a fine system. It's an effective system, and it works. And I'll use chaos elements, absolutely. In fact, I think that I agree more with chaos magic than virtually any other. There's just a little differences, and someone would probably say, no, what you're describing is also chaos magic, because chaos magic has room for that in it too. I'll be like, all right, cool.
Isn't it the most chaos magic thing to rewrite chaos magic, though?
I mean, at least the pop culture chaos magic, yes.
Yeah.
Alex the Kid asks, can you trace back what group created you as an egregor? If you go back, I don't know if you were here when I talked about the book defining the book. Can you write a book where you have a sentence in which so write a sentence, anything. It could be a short sentence, like this is a sentence. Now define every word in that sentence. Now define every word you just used to define every word in that sentence. Now describe why you used all those words. You've got to define them fully. You've got to not just say what they mean, but why you use them in that moment. And just keep doing that. You will eventually hit infinity very quickly.
I might give you the layman's version of that book. A bunch of fucking asshole cells decided to start being multicellular, and then a fish crawled out of the fucking water, and now I have anxiety. Fuck everything.
And purple, because aliens don't wear hats, because fuck it, that's why.
Yeah.
So what you're essentially asking is to tell me who told the first story. If you can find that character, then you've pretty much found God. And I'm going to tell you a secret. The first person, as far as you know, that told the story was you. When you figure that out, you'll have more fun. There is no... If you trace back the group that created you as an egregore, here's the thing with egregores, okay? Egregores start off as what? A story told between two people. And we agree that that story is real. We're going to treat it like it's real. So Flesh Priest and I are going to create an egregore. We're going to call it our Aunt Sally. And there is no Aunt Sally, but we're going to pretend that there's an Aunt Sally. We're not just going to pretend she's there. We're going to give them a mailing address. And maybe we're going to buy a P.O. box even. We're going to do everything we can to make this Aunt Sally character as real as we can and interact with it daily like it's real. And we're going to go to this level to such a point where, spookily enough, at some point, somewhere along the way, and this has happened, by the way. This is not me making this up. This is actually a story. I'm doing a version of the story, simplified version. Someone's going to know who Aunt Sally is without ever having known Aunt Sally. They'll just be like, oh yeah, Aunt Sally, I know that. I know her. Yeah. She sold me something at this Quickie Mart the other day, which is exactly this. Somehow the collective conscious will be infected with Aunt Sally. Now, all proper egregores require an anchor, a physical anchor to really make them good and strong. Well, that's what you are. Your body is an anchor for an egregore. So someone started telling a story about you, and somewhere along the way, the egregore has to wake up and get a mind of its own and become alive. The story has to come alive. Superman's a living egregore. Well, Superman originated as just the archetype of Heracles or the Messiah mixed together, sort of both. And people made up a story about this guy in blue tights with underwear on the outside. And it, for like World War II type stuff, and people liked it. And then after a while, that story took on a life of its own. And now you got fanfic from all these people writing about Superman in all these different universes and people trying to make money off it. And it's alive now. You can't kill Superman until the whole human race forgets him. Superman's a living entity. It is a living being with many faces and many incarnations. And you can even, I got a guy who was on my channel not long ago who literally works with Superman as an egregoric spirit in magic. And it works for them. So at some point, this egregore comes alive and becomes self-aware. When I say self-aware, I can't prove that it's got consciousness like I feel like I've got consciousness, but I know it does. In the same way that I know that everything I dream about is me. If I dream about a troll in a forest chasing me with a big club, it's not just because I played Valheim the other night. It's because that troll is a part of me. It looks like it's over there, but it's a part of me chasing me down. And it's got its own mind and consciousness. I'm just not over there right now. But I kind of am. Because that troll is chasing me because I'm doing that. And I'm probably going over your head with this. Maybe. The thing that you dream about is always controlled by you. But you might not have conscious awareness of that control. Just like you don't always have conscious awareness of what your guts are doing, but you wouldn't hesitate to say they're your guts. So that troll's chasing me through the forest, and I feel surprised when it catches me. But some part of me knew it was going to happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't have. Same thing for the egregore. The egregore is there in the collective conscious. It is part of the ultimate you. It is another mask that the collective conscious can wear, that the ultimate conscious can wear. And it can be alive in that way. So egregores begin as a story that's taken seriously, an imaginary friend, if you will. At some point, they become real, they become self-aware, and then they take on a life of their own. And guess what? Egregores got a beef with the world. Egregores don't like fading away. They don't like being forgotten because they're egoistic entities, always. This is why you're so worried about life after death, because your ego doesn't want to stop playing this guy. Excuse me, the ego's not a thing. The habit of ego makes you not want to stop playing this character. So you really want there to be a heaven so that you can keep playing this character, or a hell so that you keep playing this character. And the irony is you can play this character for as long as you want. There's an infinite number of universes in which this character exists. Even if there's only just this one universe where this character exists, you can go back and play it from the beginning anytime you want. You do it all the time. You just don't remember it because it's not part of your memory sequence. That's all.
The book is really good and you may not want it to end, but you can just never get to the last chapter. You can keep rereading. You can fucking rearrange chapters and sentences as you want, and that is an infinite book, my friend.
Yeah, you could delete the memory, the active memory, and go back and read it again for the first time. Wouldn't that be fun? How many of you have played a game that you really loved that if you could, you'd go back and play it with a deleted memory?
Yep.
And play it for the first time again. And then later maybe remember and talk to yourself like, did you get that part too? Yeah, that was really cool. That's what Fleshy and I are doing when we play the same game a month later and talk to each other about it. That's God's way of doing that. God's way of playing the game twice and enjoying it for the first time twice is he plays it as me, then as Fleshy. And both of us will have a slightly different experience. So your parents will plant the seed of your egregor for you. And they do so with your body as the anchor that inspires them. Well, what inspired that body? Their biology. Well, what inspired that? You can keep going back and back and back and back and back. And you'll be like, I got to the Big Bang. There's nothing before it. Yes, there is. We just can't see that far because another interesting principle of relativistic perspective life is the event horizon. You can only go so far in any direction, both spatial direction and time, before you hit a point you can't go any further in both conception or experience or knowledge. If we go too far back in time, I'll tell you another thing. Here's something that most people don't realize. The past does not exist. It's a story we tell that explains the present. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. It's all those axioms that you picked up when you were deciding, yes, this is the ego, the egregor that I'm going to choose to be. All of that happened. I wasn't there to see it. That's what's being told. We're going to roll with it because that explains why I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Think of it this way. If you were born right this second, not born, but if you just materialized, bang, right into this universe right now this second, and you saw on the floor a broken cup, you would assume that you knocked it off the table and it broke. And because that is the most likely explanation based on what you're programmed to believe, that's exactly what would happen. A scientist would come in and go, oh, well, obviously that fell on the ground and broke. It didn't just appear broken. Well, how do you know? You can't know. This is a kind of solipsistic argument. But you do have to engage with that solipsism a little bit. Not because it's right, by the way. Solipsism is an irrational position. But you could argue, I shouldn't say you could argue, there are people who think that non-dualism or monism is solipsism because they don't realize that the non-dualist or the monist is not saying you are God or that you invented reality or are making it up. They're saying you are God and you are making it up. It's just the you they're pointing at is behind, way behind the person you think you are, because that too is a creation. And when I say creation, I mean a discovery. Here's a thing that I got into an argument in my head with somebody over. I didn't actually do the argument, but I got into an argument in my head. It was somebody saying, there was some video I was watching and it was a cell eating another cell. And for some weird ass fucking reason, whenever there's like a biological video about anything that has to do with cells or evolution or anything, you get within the first 2 or 3 comments, you've got a harsh skeptic atheist and a fucking born again creationist. And they're arguing about God created and nothing created. And the universe was created by God. And this one other guy said the universe was an accident. And it's like, boy, you're both dumb. One of the first axioms of science is nothing can be created or destroyed. Got that? Reality is discovered. It is not created. You can't have anything create anything. So you say, well, Thorne, there's no God. Here's an interesting tidbit about God. In every theology, God can't be created nor destroyed. Interesting how that which cannot be created or destroyed, in other words, the universe, and God are so similar on every way. See, here's the problem. The theist personifies God. That's the problem. And they think the personification of God is God. No, that would be, if I was a Gnostic, that's the demiurge. The personification of God is a lie. That doesn't mean you can't personify things. It just means that to call that God, the one true God, is wrong. This is why you can't give God a name in Jewish culture. You can't give it a name. You cannot see God. You cannot talk about God in the sense of a person. You can't name it as a person. Somewhere in the long distant past, maybe hidden in the esoteric part of Judaism, is a very monist, non-dualistic perspective hidden in there somewhere. I got to get somebody on who knows for sure to confirm. It's just my gut suspicion. So,
do you feel like this is just, you know, cycling back to what we were talking about, cycle of samsara and everything? All of this starts off as God is the universe. Oh shit, nobody's gonna buy the book if we do that. And then God's favorite color is purple and he wears fuzzy socks on Sunday and God says you can't eat shrimp or be gay.
So yes, so this is what happens, okay? Somebody somewhere realizes what God is and that they are in perfect union with that. They realize they are God and that God is not the person, but the person is something that God is doing, and God is infinite and the universe is God and all of this, right? They realize all of these mind-blowing, profound things. And then, because they're lonely and bored with this knowledge, because what good is this knowledge if you can't show it off? Because you're still having an ego experience, so you still want to show off that you found this out. So what do? You know, you haven't elevated, you haven't left the body because you want to be a bodhisattva. So what do? You turn around, you go, hey, Fleshy, did you know you're God? And Fleshy goes, no shit.
Dude.
And we both have a cool time, and Fleshy gets a little bit of it, and somebody else gets a little more or a little bit less. And we talk about this, and we do this every Thursday night. Cool. So far, you're all with me. I consider all of you part of my 12 disciples, and I don't want any disciples. I'm just saying that as a metaphor. You're all my 12 disciples in this metaphor. Okay? Not that I see myself that way. I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
So you're all my 12 disciples, but none of you will see exactly what I see unless maybe you achieve exactly what I achieve. But out of all of you, some of you are going to get it wrong. Some of you are not going to see what I'm pointing at. I'm going to be pointing at a sunset that's obvious as fuck. And you're going to look at the cloud right next to it and go, yeah, that's a pretty cool sunset. And never realize that we're talking about something separate. Not really separate, but something distinct. And then what's going to happen is you're going to go off and you'll be like, I've learned the magical, mystical lessons of Thornism. And this is what he said. And you're going to write it down. And the Gospel of Thorne, Fleshy edition comes out. And then the Gospel of Thorne Wyatt edition comes out, and Eddie edition, and CM edition, and April, and Kyle, and Sal, and Billy, and Julie, and whatever your name.
Can I put it another way? It's like you pointing up. Have you ever pointed up at a cloud with somebody and said, like, doesn't that one look like a face? They're like, oh, yeah, I could see the face in it. And it turns out you were looking at completely different clouds.
Completely different clouds. Yeah, that's a good example,
they didn't see a face in your cloud. They saw a fucking horse. And the fucking cloud that looked like a seashell to you is for some reason what they saw a face in. But they're both faces and they're both accurate.
So that's partially true. Partially. That's one way of saying it. But I'm also saying that people will not attain it. They will not actually get it. But they'll go off and because they got some of it, they will describe it to everybody. And then you'll get these differing opinions on what Thorne's true message was. So that's one layer of distortion, and it's inevitable. Layer 2 of the distortion, the one that's really problematic, is that you'll get some people who do get it, but they realize the power in getting it. The power in getting it makes you incorruptible in terms of coercion and all of these other things, because if you really get it, you know that death is not a threat. You know that nothing anyone can do to you can ever be done to you. You know that you can't be coerced into anything in the way that you can coerce an average person. If you can coerce that person, it takes an extraordinary level of coercion. Because their first instinct is to say, fuck you, I do what I want. And the only reason they might not is because they have compassion for who you're doing it to. So my
really
point
quick,
is,
I'm going to jump in.
No.
Thank you for the super chat, Asarte Azeroth.
Did we get the
fisting hippo?
We got fisting hippo.
Actually, for some reason, on the stream in the chat bar down there, it actually said in quotes something like a hippo doing tactical hand maneuvers, something like that. So I guess it's not the fisting hippo, but it's the fisting hippo in my heart.
Thank you, Astarte Astaroth. We love you, sister. Thank you so much. Yeah. I fucking love that one. I wish I saw it. I didn't notice it. I know exactly which one it was too. So because the message is not visible in its to the average person easily, because the role of a guru is not to teach but to confront. Without a proper guru, you've got to do it yourself, and not many people can. And so that means the message is easily corrupted, and the people who get it understand that they are divine and that you're divine too. And they recognize that if they can convince you of something, well, then they've convinced the divine that it's true, and so therefore it becomes true. So they recognize that all they have to do is keep you from figuring it out. You know how they do that? They disguise the truth in myth and metaphor. Instead of using the myth and metaphor to teach, they use it to corrupt. That becomes a blind. That blind becomes a dead end. And you have a bunch of people slitting their wrists. I'm not advocating, Susan. Slitting their wrists, bleeding on altars, becoming death cults. Take our firstborn children so that the rains may fall. And the priests go, yeah, good. Take all their possessions too. That's for the offering plate too. You get these people who get it, and they use it against people, because what they didn't pick up along the way was they didn't get it all the way. They didn't get the compassion side. Or they figured, hey, the universe doesn't care that much about us individually. They rationalize it somehow. So they create what is called a peasant religion or a slave religion or whatever. But they themselves practice the true mysticism. Behind the scenes, behind every, if you go, I'm telling you right now, I'm just saying from an intuitive place of scrying, if you go into the Vatican in the deep heart of those motherfuckers, what they know, ooh, you'd be pissed.
So it was all about boy love the whole time?
It was, yes. It's like that South Park episode where it turns out to be spiders or whatever from the planet.
Oh yeah, oh my fucking God, yes.
It's kind of like that. It isn't that, but it's like that. What they know to be true is ridiculous compared to what they tell you. And they don't tell you until you're like, conspiracy theory level stuff, okay? Allegedly, balls deep in many people, many times on camera, because they want to make sure you don't talk. It's a mystery school. The Catholic Church, all of these, they're all mystery schools. They're just, on the surface, they look like an Orthodox religion, because that's what all the mystery schools would do. They'd have an upfront Orthodox religion where people would come and leave offerings for God and they'd answer the prayers. But then if you hit the inner circle, you go deep down in the belly of the beast and they get you high as fuck on psychedelics. And next thing you know, you're God. And you realize it because you've died and been reborn, using whatever method that they like. The Eleusinians, the Dionysians, all of them have their own way of doing it. And then if somebody hears about it, they go, this is a death cult because they're talking about dying and being born again. It's a death cult. Or you get Jesus, you must die and be reborn. He's not lying. This is why, like, I've completely reconciled my opinion of Christianity. I'm going to be doing a lot of work with that soon. I've reconciled a lot of that. A lot of Satanists are going to be pissed when I start talking about this. Because they're tribal in their mind. They don't get it yet. And the church ruined that message. The original message of Christianity was not what the Orthodox religion teaches at all. Never once in the Bible does Jesus say, I am God. Never once did he say, I'm the only Son of God. Never once does he say any of the things that the church will demand that you believe. If anything, Jesus was here to tell you that you're all God, if Jesus even existed in the way that they describe. At best, he was a mystic. At best, or he was a group of mystics who all figured it out. At best. Very likely it was a story at least largely concocted by the Romans. Maybe it's a mixer of the two theories. Probably that's what it is. It's probably some guy who really did have a non-dual awakening in his culture, had no other way to say it other than I'm God, but was a very wise rabbi who knew a lot of Jewish lore, a lot of esoteric stuff, and brought it out and trotted it out and said, I figured it out, we're all God. And because if you guys watch that Alan Watts video I posted yesterday, I'm repeating some of it. Realizing that the word son of in the old usage in a mystical spiritual sense didn't mean squirt, you're my son now. It meant to be a projection of, an aspect of, a part of, the descendant of, the reincarnation of, the incarnation of something. That's what it meant. So when Jesus says, he never said it, but when it was implied that he is the Son of God and that you are too, is what is never said in the Orthodox Bible. But there's a lot of apocryphal works that weren't allowed in there.
Book of Judas, baby. So like Jesus is like yeast, where he's just like, if you just have me around, I will rise 3 days later and I'll make some groovy shit. We can have beer, we can have sourdough. And the fucking church is just the awful, awful fucking all recipes people going, you must use the yeast in such a manner, and you must add exactly 2.5 tablespoons to allow the yeast into your home and your heart. And bake at exactly 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 90 minutes.
Blade and Cloak doesn't like the Jesus egregore, but he's never met him. No offense, Blade and Cloak.
Like that.
No, what you've met is the Christian egregore of Jesus. You haven't met. There are schools of Christianity that would tell you that Jesus is actually an incarnation of Lucifer. I implore you to look them up, because if you want to be blasphemous and heretical, yeah, look it up. You'll piss off a Christian real good. So, yes, Lowland says, Jesus never said, be my slave. I'll award you after you die. Never, 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 never. You'll even see Jesus never said, worship me, never once. The Catholic Church wants you to worship Jesus because guess who gets to be in front of Jesus taking the collection? Your enemy is the church, the Orthodox Church, not the deity. Shit,
you just spoiled the intention of the work of D.H. Thorne, Flesh Priest Edition.
Yeah, you did, you fucker.
So I've been chomping at the bit. I don't want to cut this short, but I still have a story I want to get to.
Oh, yeah, fuck us all in the freaking brain pan. Get me that story.
Okay, cool. Let me just...
Blade and Cloak, I love you, brother. I'm just encouraging you to look it up because it's wild shit. That's why I talk about don't be pulled too hard. I'm going to let you talk a second, Fleshy.
Yeah, no.
This is why this stream really should be fuck superstition. Because, and I say this with agape love, brother. When you're sitting there saying, fuck Jesus in the ass, that's fine. He probably wouldn't care if he existed. But that's because of a tribal superstitious reason. You have been burned by the church and by the judgmental religion, and you associate that motherfucker with who hurts you. But that motherfucker is as much a victim of this shit as you are. Because that's not who he was, if he existed at all. All right, I'm good.
Okay. So I've been holding on to a couple stories for a while, and I've been very bad about remembering to read them. So getting back into these shoes. This is a story that was written in a while ago from CM Helnikainen. So thank you for the submission, and it goes as follows. I swear I'm not trying to make this sound like a Reddit story, but
it's a Reddit story.
This is just a brief encounter I had on the night of the 15th. October 15th was the first night all month that the moon was in the sky where I live. Finally, half a month later, it decides to show its face in time for the full moon. As I was laying my dorm on a trek to the gas station for some treats to celebrate the few hours left of the Friday night ahead, I came across a peculiar sight. Along the pathway I was traversing, beside the only lamppost before the pathway meets the street, was a black feathered bird. Laying diseased talons up and a few small splatters of dry red life fluid next to it, it was clear it must have been smashed head first into the pitch black lamppost very recently, for it was completely intact with no visible signs of decay. Scenes in movies of dead birds being an omen were admittedly the first thing that jumped into my thoughts, tossing around the idea of this might be a sign of some sort of just something mundane I came across. At the moment, I heard a rustling to my left and was shocked to see two young mule deer coming around the corner of the building in front of me and to my left. I took a few steps back from the bird down the pathway and had my attention to the two deer who were watching me with equal anxiety, no doubt. Just as I began to wonder if their presence was confirmation and returning my gaze to the bird, in the broad light of the lamppost, a great horned owl swooped down out of nowhere, flew low to the ground as if to inspect the dead bird, and then all in one swoop glided gracefully up to a low branch less than 10 meters away from me, where I had previously walked from. While I was taking all of this in, I immediately thought back to my harvest moon ritual, where I had spoken to both Prince Stolas and President Malphus in the same night. I needn't get all of it here, but I remember after said ritual getting an image in my mind's eye of a lone owl sitting on a tree branch in daylight, with a murder of crows surrounding it, perhaps even laughing at it as they cawed. Now, however, the striking scene of the dead black feathered bird contrasted with the owl nonchalantly vibing on a low branch practically overhead. I couldn't help but get the impression in my mind's eye that Prince Stolas was wordlessly trying to convey, "I'm a prince. No?" As I took a few photos of the scene around me and a few video clips, including the full moon nearly upon me, I made a few notes about what had happened and just mindfully stayed in the moment before me to reveal in magic manifesting as it wilt before my eyes. Strangely, a few hours prior, I had told somebody in a voice chat the importance of letting magic do as it will and just being mindful of manifestations, no matter how big or small they may come to us. Not going in expecting a grand heaven and earth moving event, nor dismissing the lone moth that you witness at your porch light. And scene.
Yeah, it's pretty wild because when I first encountered, a memory of Prince Stolas, because it wasn't Prince Stolas when this happened, but when I was first working with Prince Stolas, one of the first things I remembered was when I was on a hunting trip and an owl did basically the same thing, swooped down low, grabbed something right in front of me, and it was really just majestic and awesome. And it's also interesting to note that owls and crows are mortal enemies to a great degree. And when the crows are in any number, they will do everything they can to scare away and beat up an owl. But one owl, especially like a horned owl, like a big one, can go through an entire murder of crows in one night, just eating them in their roosts. And they because they're blind at night, they can't even, they just get fucked up and
I did not even know that. That's actually nature's metal.
Yeah, nature's pretty fucking metal. So they're mortal enemies, and neither one really gets the better of the other because in the daytime and when they're a group, the owl's fucked. But at night, when it's in the element of the owl kicks ass. They really, and they both serve for similar things. The owl's more of a symbol of wisdom. The crow is more a symbol of cunning and trickery, which they go hand in hand. I mean, wisdom often acts cunning and trick, and so they're like two sides of the exact same kind of energy. So there's so much, and crows are also a sign of Saturn and death, but also Apollo, and there's all these different, like we shouldn't get too superstitious, but the superstition helps us to see, right? Sometimes in the symbolism we learn something, and that's important to point out. You also have the Morrigan. You have so much, So, it also makes me think of last night. I was taking a shower at 3 a.m. because why the fuck not?
Sometimes the schedule is just like that, man.
It's just how it do be, And I was taking a shower last night at 3 a.m. and I was listening to that Alan Watts video that I put on Discord. And when I finished with that, I put on some fucking meditative music. I took a long fucking, relaxing shower, if that makes sense. I was shaving places, tending the garden, if you will. Everything was, took a while. And so at some point when I'm getting ready to get in the shower, I like to meditate in the shower because the feeling of the water, cold, hot, all of it, I like to feel it. And it sort of becomes sort of white noise for my body and everything else. And I can really go off into la la land if I do it right. And at one point, I saw the symbol for each of the planets like you'd use in astrology or ancient magic. And I saw them on a black, like as if there's no ground, almost like the ground was made of obsidian. And it was emblazoned in the ground like sigils. And I saw each of the gods incarnate out of those sigils and sort of stand or hover right over it with their, you know, like the drawings you might see. So you have Mars with his spear and his shield, and, you know, Mercury and Apollo with his harp and all of these different things. And then I saw their different versions from other times also standing, like merging and flickering in and out. And then I sort of got this feeling like they serve, if the demiurge was a real entity in a superstitious way, they serve the demiurge for a lot of people. That's not to say there isn't a liberating version of them, but there is a demiurgical version of them where people worship them and sacrifice to them and treat them like they're better. And I said, no, they'll kneel before me. And the next thing I know, I saw them all kneeling before me like they served me. And then I felt a compassion for them because I recognized that they were victims too, like I said of Jesus a moment ago. Because what they really represent is a way to theurgistically engage with your higher self, one aspect at a time. Just like there's a shadow side to the Qliphoth, there's the Sephiroth, they go together. Well, there's a shadow side of the spirits of the planets, and there's an illuminated side. And they're both important. And so I made them kneel before me. I saw them all kneel before me and put their hands out and charge me with energy. And then I said, no, on second thought, rise. And they rose up and they flowed into me. And the next thing I know, I'm like off in La La Land taking a shower. So a lot of this was obviously imaginary, but it was like a channeled imaginary experience. And I felt like it was symbolically important to have that moment. I felt like that represents a ritual that I'm going to write at some point and actually perform or give to the world to try. And it's quite heretical. It's quite blasphemous if you're a pagan. How dare you make the gods bow? How dare they make me bow? That's my attitude. How dare any of you make anybody bow? So you need to have both sides of the coin. You need to make them bow and then rise as equals. Because you've bowed your whole life, probably, before gods or some other fucker trying to swallow you whole. It's time you stand up too. So you might as well make them do both. So, I don't know. That story, CM kind of got me to talk about my story. So.
It moved a thing within you.
Yeah, it moved me to tell a story of my own.
And I'm sorry to get into jokes and everything here, but I'm just imagining doing what you described and how questionable I would be to my downstairs neighbors of just, he's showering at 3 a.m. Normally he'd listen to music really loud while taking a shower, but right now he's just listening to, "You are not real. In fact, I am not real. What's going on? I'm scared."
Is that a shower or is that the sound of blood from many bodies? What's going on? Oh yeah.
Oh nope, the chill step is coming in. Okay, this is okay. Yes, bow to me. Yes, bow right now. Okay, no, it got questionable again. But yeah,
almost like the Bush story, you realize you're bowing to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Always, you know. Yeah. Not that I'm a Gnostic, but even a Gnostic might say that the demiurge serves a purpose and not to be too resentful. So, yeah. It's pretty wild. Pretty fucking wild. Pretty fucking wild.
Yeah, and I there's something about
Fuck you, CM. Fuck you. That's like the planetary ball shaving ritual. Holy crap! I wasn't talking about that part being in the ritual. It was going to be like do a purifying thing and then go do this ritual.
Yeah, the cleansing of the orbs. The
Orb
purification
shaving.
of the planetary orbs, man.
Orb shaving. I still need to do a fucking video about orbs. I really got to before the meme's completely gone. I got to do my orb video.
Oh hell yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about doing a back to basics series where I start going back into techniques and tricks and tips and shit that I don't talk about a lot lately. Because I've been way off in cerebral land. So it might be fun to talk about ritual techniques again. But those videos were always my least selling videos, so to speak. I didn't get it. You know where I get the most traction? EA was canceled today. That gets me way more shit. Some guy called me a fucking Nazi today. That's way more fucking... I get way more fucking views from those. I could be like, use this one simple trick and you too can be God. And it's literally the most real thing I could tell you. And people are like, yeah, that's nice. But did anybody curse you out when you talked about it? You know?
Yeah,
frustrating as fuck.
It's interesting because I see those videos as like, you know, they're clickbaity in the way of like, oh, what happened? Like, I'm out of the loop. Like, I need to hear this or, yeah, I see just because it's fucking monkey neuron activation when you see that shit. For people who are already in the community, I see those types of videos of the back to basics and everything being like, no, those things tend to not be as popular, but I also see the value in those because
they're definitely evergreen.
Yeah, they're more evergreen and they bring people. It's a good way to reach out a hand and say like, come up to speed so that you too may understand what I'm talking about when I post videos of EA was canceled. Just to have
maybe I'll start a playlist because I've got the Occult playlist, but it's like 240 videos long or some shit. Nobody watches that whole fucking thing anymore.
Yeah, no.
So maybe I'll start a back to basics and I'll redo some of my older videos that I've changed my opinion on, or just so you don't see fat ass Thorne, you can start seeing skinny Thorne instead of fat. I watched a video because YouTube fucking deleted it. And so I watched it to find the part that pissed them off. I found it. I realized why they got pissed off, and it wasn't that bad, but whatever. They're antsy. Well, anyway, I watched this, and I'm like, not only do I look different, like very different, that I didn't realize I looked that different, but holy shit, my whole sinuses were full of fat because I was like,
oh yeah, no, you sound different.
Like, right? I didn't realize how different I sounded. Ugh. I sounded like a fat dying fuck when I was... People who say magic isn't real.
That far.
People who say magic isn't real, just watch my 218 videos versus my 220 videos and my 221 videos. Yeah, it's real, bro. It's real. It's just not what you think it is, that's all. Oh, Wyatt, you watch all my videos. Oh, that's love. Love is in the air.
You know, something I wanted to touch on with the story is that, and I don't mean this backhandedly at all, because I recognized, you know, the synchronistic significance that had for you. And
don't let me put you on the fire.
While also being aware that to anybody else who's not into all of this, that just sounds like you had a experience walking out in the woods type of deal. And I actually, like, you know, as a little for your consideration, anybody who hasn't gotten out into nature recently and just taken a walk around, I highly recommend doing it because all of this that we're accustomed to, you know, within your own crafted space becomes so
very controlled.
Yeah, it's very controlled. And I do wholeheartedly believe that the synchronicities happen just as much here as they happen out there. But we are much more blind to them, or at least I am, where once I get out there in a bunch of the shit that I do not directly control to such an extent, suddenly the synchronicities just start kicking. So if you are feeling a little bit like your practice has stagnated or you haven't been having progress, please, for yourself, go out and take a walk in nature. Take a walk around town even. Even if nothing happens and you don't get any synchronicities, you're still going to have a nice meditative time, and that is equally valuable.
Rouse just roasted you. He said, it's going to be -30 tomorrow, bro. So he's saying you're basically trying to kill him, Fleshy. Oh, we got another Pornhub.
I just walked like 2 miles in the snow today. I know what I'm talking about. Minus 30 might be a different ball game, though. You can stay inside.
All right, I got him. We got the point. Oh, I want to show off what my wife got me for Christmas, ironically enough. Isn't it cool?
Oh, dude, that's fucking... Oh, fuck yeah.
It's hard to see in the lighting, but it's got like silver like trim on it, and it's actually on both sides. I was amazed that they actually put some detail on the back end. I'm like, why would you bother? Like, they painted the fucker's nails on the back. Like, they expect, I guess, people to see it from the back. I don't know. I love it, man, because this is actually going to be something that's part of, you know, it's just a hold. It's just a mudra. It's just a thing you can do.
Speaking of things you can do in roasting, that hand symbol, okay, good. It shows up more clearly there. You know, making a pentagram with your hands like that. Mm-hmm. If you can do that, you are more powerful than Yekoeting.
What, he can't do it?
He might be able to now, but I remember hanging out with him a while ago, and he was like trying to get it. Like, yeah.
I mean, it is hard, especially if you got fat fingers like I got.
Yeah, like it's not comfortable, don't get me wrong, but I was kind of laughing just because, like, how is it that you, like, the most fucking black magic motherfucker, like, of course you would not be able to, like this is your gang sign and you can't throw it up.
Well, you know. Make that fucker.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I'm not, like, I'm roasting him, but I'm roasting him with love. I love you, dude.
No, we know. And I think he would tell you that it has something to do with his
some worker hands.
No, when he was younger, he went through some abusive shit. And so he has a difficult time using, believe it or not, like bilateral activity with his hands and shit. So that's another one, by the way. So those are mudras used in Kuji, by the way. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're getting down there. We got 10 more minutes to the 3-hour mark, and you know I don't like to go past that if we can help it. So we got 42 people here tonight. It was a light night, I guess, because the holidays. Probably everybody's out drinking and doing everything because it's the night before New Year's. And fuck you. I like to think of the New Year's on the 21st or whatever the solstice is, just because. That's just because I like it that way. But I'm sure there's other traditions that put it on other days. But fuck it, you know, this is just when we celebrate it. But the New Year's happens for me every moment of every day because it's always a new year compared to the day it was that day last year. So fuck you.
Well said.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, the good news is I got my Linktree back. I think I mentioned that to you guys on other websites and things, but Linktree, they apologize. Like some person says, I bet you they never even apologized. No, they actually apologized. They said, we don't know what happened. It never should have been taken down. We've restored you with full features. Yeah, that's right. So I got everything back. Linktree works. So if you're interested in, well, if you're not sick of me and you don't think I'm totally nuts, or you hear me talking about books all the time, you don't know what I'm talking about. Fleshy, I don't know if you got them easier to grab than I do, but I got mine right here. I've got 3 books that I have in print through Amazon. I am a self-published author. I am successful in that there, you know, I don't need no publisher to make a modest, very, very modest ability to feed myself occasionally off of my book work. Yes.
Oh, fucking shit. I feel stupid. I'm going to let you finish. I just clicked to close the tab I was reading CM's story from, and I realized it continued on to the next page. There's like another paragraph and a half. My bad.
Shit. Read it, and then we'll sell my shit.
Okay.
Maybe I'll be holding this up the whole time so people can see.
I was wondering, I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good note to end on, but it doesn't feel it's missing something. So
I thought it was just meant to be profound. I was like, all right.
So I'm going to reread the last sentence. Not going in expecting Strangely, a few hours prior, I had told somebody in a voice chat the importance of letting magic do as it will, and just being mindful of manifestations, no matter how big or small they may come to us. Not going in expecting a grand heaven or earth moving event, nor are outright dismissing the lone moth that you witness at your porch light. Phone in hand, I figured I'd walk down to the tree the owl was perched in and get some close-up photos. But as soon as I had set that intention and looked up to the branch where the owl was, I barely caught a glimpse of a figure launching from the branch and disappearing like a specter into the void of the night. As if to confirm the manifestation was complete, the two mule deers on my left also started to wander off, vaguely in the same direction of the owl, who had departed. 45 minutes later or so, on my way home, the bird body had also disappeared from the pathway. While I have to interpret what all that meant, even to the skeptic, if nothing whatsoever, I feel the point still stands. Let magic do what it will. You will see what you are meant to see, and remember to try and experience all of whatever moment you find in front of you has to offer.
There you go. Acceptable. Acceptable. Hopefully people didn't leave before hearing the rest of that.
You still got
That's my
simpler
sigil
numbers.
for President Malphas, by the way.
Ooh, topical.
My favorite goetic demon is President Malphas, personally, but everybody's got their favorites. So, yes, these are my 3 books that are currently in print, with more on the way. This is the big fucker that's 160,000 words, and it's basically a complete course in magic of a certain perspective. This is a book based on vampiric magic, including an initiation with Lilith to help you utilize vampire magic. This is Shadownomicon, not for the beginner. You don't even want to touch this unless you're at least... I mean, hopefully you got your fucking, communion with your higher guardian angel already going on, at least. You should be at least in the middle to the middle in category of skill. You should not be sitting there going, how do I meditate? What does a sigil do? If you're still asking those questions, don't touch that shit.
I'll say this though, if you pick that up as your first and you work through it successfully, you either did something incredibly wrong or you are like an autistic savant on something.
I will say, though, even if you do pick this up first, it's fine. Just don't try to practice it. The only thing that I would say you can practice, though, if you read the book completely and properly, the communion ritual is utilizable in any ritual format. You don't have to just use it with the shadow people. It's probably my favorite setup for doing rituals is something like this. And it's pretty simple, and it's not uncommon. I'll say it borrows a lot of elements from a lot of different places, but when it's done properly, it's a very beautiful way to do ritual, especially when trying to conjure spirits. So, check it out. I think that you'll find it useful. Even if you're not an advanced person, you'll still find something of value in it. It's definitely informative if you don't plan on using it. So,
absolutely.
That's right. I think Alexa will read my books now, because originally people were like, oh, do you have audiobooks? I'm like, no. But if you have Kindle, pretty much any Kindle book, I believe, can be read now. So by Alexa. So there is that. And I've availed myself of that use too. Yeah. So I don't think there's going to be a Shadownomicon 2. I don't know for sure. I have to get through this self-initiation book, which is going to be probably size similar to, probably closer to Become the Maelstrom in size and complexity. And I'm whiffling on it a bunch because, I've kind of got the success poison, if that makes sense. Like I've succeeded too much and I don't want to fail this one. And I'm kind of like living in my own shadow now. So now I look back on my work and go, fuck, how do I make this better? And it's only going to get better, but it's what I think is better might not be what sells or people think is better. So that's, like I've got that anxiety, that worry, and it's holding me back, but it's also meaning that I've written this book about 4 times now, and I'm rewriting it all the time and just refining chapters over and over and over again. And I think I'm finding my voice more and more each time I do each update. So we'll see. This is either going to be the most important book I wrote or the one that people go, oh, okay, another one of these. And like, that's it. So we'll see.
There's importance in failure too, even if that happens.
No, it's true. And like I told you before, maybe what I'm supposed to do is just bye y'all and just not do this anymore. Or maybe I'm supposed to completely switch and just do fiction, because I really do want to do fiction. But fiction is harder for me to write, even though I'm a really, prolific writer.
Get obsessed with the details. I know what it's like.
Yeah, and it's like I've already watched the movie 50 times in my head, and it's like I don't feel like watching it again to write it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. to do all the books for it. So yeah.
I like what CM said. Alexa, what is Legion? Just, could you imagine the cursed shit that would come out of Alexa's mouth? Just, oh, thanks. I've been struck by cursed knowledge. I will never be the same.
Legion is a very important, you know, man, there's just so many things. I love finding intrinsic things. I love finding fundamental pillars of things. I love simplifying. I love that. And Legion is like a Karanzan, but on a massive scale. And it is like, it is the shadow of, you know, of all human ego, all at once, just there. And it's a collective shadow. And it's just, it's one of my favorites to engage with. But it's also one of the more mind-fucking. And, you know, when we did the Shadowgate project in 2020, a lot of people got upset because they believed that Shadowgate project was going to like destroy the world. And a lot of people blame me for a lot of the things that have happened in 2020 and 21, believe it or not. There are, according to some people who might be watching, will tell you that, I don't know if they still talk about it, but for a little while they were like, Thorne did this. No, the purpose of that was to reveal what was already being done. Not everyone's going to see it, but for those who will, they're seeing it now. And yeah, so you're welcome. I'm not the one who stabbed you. I'm the one who said you got a knife in you.
You bastard, why would you do that?
Don't shoot the messenger, motherfuckers. So, all right, guys, I think, yeah, check out my Linktree. It's blah, 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 blah. Let me, where is it? It's in my, let me post it. I'm going to do it. I like to do it once in a while. Linktree. If you're new here, we've got a Discord server. You can find that by going to this link as well. So there we go. I'm going to make it the pinned comment. I should have done that earlier. Click on that Linktree, and you can even join my email list, which I haven't used in a month or so. I kind of got, you know, away from things because fuck social media and everything else. I really needed some space, but some of that's going to be getting used again at some point, if nothing else, just to make sure if I get deplatformed, there's a way to connect with me. So if you like my stuff, sign up for the email list. I won't bombard you.
Yeah, you're good about that.
And if I did, it's content. It's not just sales for shit. And if you want to support me, you can buy my books. You can go to my Patreon where I have class schedules and stuff like that. You can join me. I'm actually thinking about taking a page out of Damien Eccles's book and switching my class to more like a live stream that only people who are subscribed to that Patreon can access. Instead of making it a class, making it like only people who are at that tier can actually join that live stream. And then later, I will, like a month later, I'll release it publicly. So we'll see. I'm going to play with that in my head too. But the current class that we're going to be doing starting in January, I don't remember what day, but probably, I guess, this week coming up after the New Year's. I don't know if it'll be Monday or Tuesday. I gotta work with my people to figure it out. But we're going to be getting back into the meditative stuff that we were doing originally, and everybody really enjoyed that. So we're going to get back into that, the guided meditation classes. So that's really a fundamental skill you should be having anyway. It's more important than all the blah, blah, blahs that we do. So we're going to be getting back to that. We're going to be doing stuff like chi balls, you know, psi balls. We'll be fucking around with chakras. We'll be doing all that stuff. So that's all the most important stuff in a lot of ways anyway. So, all right. I think I'm good. I think I'm good, Fleshy.
Well, then.
Didn't work because I'm not with it.
That would have been so fucking... Like, we would just have to end the stream right there if you did that.
I tried to do it with just 2 fingers. Listen. Oh, so close.
No, but with that, everybody, we're going to tell you...
It's not as easy as it looks.
It really isn't. I've tried. But we're going to tell you, thank you for being here, as always. Thank you for your questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them. We like really chewing on the ones that we take. So tune in next week for more and more, and mind the motherfucking shadows.
Mind them fucking shadows. All right, guys, have a good week. See you on Thursday next week. Bye.
Bye.